Warrior began in late 1870s in San Francisco, a densely populated commercial center that was located in Northern California, the United States. There was a Chinese martial arts expert named Ah Som who emigrated from China with other Chinese immigrants. But not like other Chinese immigrants who came to San Francisco to find better jobs and better lives. Ah Som came to San Francisco to find his elder sister who disappeared 2 years ago. Sadly, when Ah Som and those Chinese immigrants arrived in San Francisco, they were treated poorly by the local community. They were discriminated by other workers because of the low wage that they received. When the officers checked their documents, they harassed those poor immigrants just because they couldn't speak English. Ah Som was mad when he saw that. He finally approached those racist officers and began to beat them up. Ah Som's amazing fighting skill gained the attention of everybody in that place, including Wang Chao, a black market salesman and an illegal arms dealer. After Wang Chao saw Ah Som's fighting skill, he took Ah Som to a place to introduce him to Chinese mafia. After a while, they finally arrived in a Chinatown, a district in San Francisco in which the population is predominantly of Chinese origin. Wang Chao took Ah Som to meet Father Jun, the leader of a criminal organization called Hop Wai Tong. The largest source of income for Hop Wai Tong was the selling of opium. After the meeting, Father Jun ordered his son, Young Jun, to show Ah Som around. Young Jun took Ah Som to a brothel that was run by a beautiful woman named Ah Toy. Ah Som asked Ah Toy if she knew his elder sister, Seojing, who emigrated to San Francisco 2 years ago. Ah Toy admitted that she didn't know any woman named Seojing, but it seemed that she knew something about the woman Ah Som was looking for. But for some reasons, she refused to tell Ah Som about what she knew about his sister, Seojing. Not long after that, a rival Tong called Long Zi Tong came to that place. They attacked Young Jun and took him with them because they thought that he was the person who was looking for Seojing. They didn't know that Ah Som, the person who was looking for Seojing, was in that place too. Unlike the members of Hop Wai Tong who were dressed neatly in formal suits, the members of Long Zi Tong were only wearing Chinese traditional clothes to differentiate themselves from the members of other Tongs. Suddenly, Ah Som showed up in front of the members of Hop Wai Tong and began to beat them up. Even though he was only alone, he managed to defeat all of them with his bare hands. Young Jun and Ah Toy were amazed when they saw that, and because of that incident too, Father Jun finally decided to recruit Ah Som as a member of Hop Wai Tong. The next morning, the mayor of San Francisco, Samuel Blake, and his wife, Penelope Blake, had a breakfast together. While they were having a breakfast, Walter Franklin Buckley, the deputy mayor of San Francisco, who was also Samuel's right-hand man, suddenly came to that place. Walter informed Samuel that 2 Chinese immigrants were found dead. After they investigated the case, those Chinese immigrants used to work at a factory that was owned by Lyman Meriwether, the main supporter of Mayor of San Francisco during the political campaign. When Samuel arrived at his office, he saw Lyman already waiting for him there. Lyman was mad at Samuel for the incident that happened to those Chinese workers. He protested to Samuel and pressured him to protect his workers. After that, Walter went to the police station and met with Russell Flanagan, San Francisco's chief of police. After Russell heard about what happened, he called his subordinate, Bill O'Hara, to his room. Bill was an Irish police officer who knew everything about Chinatown. Russell planned to create a squad that consisted of 4 police officers to watch over Chinatown, and he asked Bill to become the leader of the squad. Meanwhile, 2 Irishmen were attending the court for murdering 2 Chinese laborers another day. Those 2 Irishmen were the members of the Irish Labor Union. During the hearing, they saw a man who sat in the back seat. That man was named Dylan Leary, an American Civil War veteran and the leader of the labor union called Workingmen's Party of California. Dylan hated the Chinese and provoked other workers into fighting against them. He thought that they took away the jobs that he believed were meant for the Irish. At the police station, the police officers were having a meeting to discuss about the squad that the chief of police created to watch over Chinatown. One of the police officers who attended the meeting was Richard Henry Lee, a new police officer from Savannah, Georgia. After the meeting, those police officers went to Wang Chiu's gun shop to buy some firearms for their patrol. As a new police officer, Richard had no idea about how things were working in that place. He was surprised when he found out that instead of arresting an illegal arms dealer, his coworkers bought weapons from him. In another place, Sam, who had become an official member of Hop Wai Tong now, were visiting the market with other members of Hop Wai Tong, including Young Jun. Suddenly, Sam saw two members of Long Zi Tong in that place. He noticed that those men acted strangely and decided to follow them. While he was following those men to Long Zi Tong's headquarters, Young Jun suddenly showed up and stopped him. Young Jun asked him to leave that place because it was dangerous for a member of Hop Wai Tong to be there. But at night, instead of listening to Young Jun, Sam returned to Long Zi Tong's headquarters by himself. He came to that place to look for his missing sister, Xiaojing. The members of Long Zi Tong took him to Lai Yang, a skilled martial artist who served as Long Zi's right-hand man. Lai Yang greeted Sam and asked him why he was looking for Xiaojing. Sam didn't answer him and seemed hesitant to answer him. Lai Yang was annoyed because of that. He then challenged Sam in a fight. Sam accepted his challenge, and the two of them began to get into a fight. Sam was impressed by Lai Yang's fighting skill. After so many years, he finally met someone who matched his fighting skill. Usually, he managed to defeat his opponents easily, but this time, he was struggling to fight Lai Yang. While Sam and Lai Yang were having a fight, a woman suddenly showed up in that place and interrupted them. That woman asked Lai Yang to leave that place because she needed to talk to Sam. Sam was surprised and happy when he saw that woman. Turned out that woman was Xiaojing, Sam's sister who had been missing for 2 years. It was revealed that Xiaojing had changed her name into Mei Ling. Sam told Mei Ling that he came to the United States to find her. And now that he had found her, he asked her to return to China with him, but Mei Ling immediately refused to do that. Mei Ling revealed that she had married Long Zi, the head of Long Zi Tong. She was getting even more mad at Sam when she found out that Sam had become a member of Hop Wai Tong, Long Zi Tong's rival. She then told Sam to leave that place. After Sam left that place, Mei Ling returned to a room and talked to an old man. That old man was Long Zi himself, the leader of Long Zi Tong. Long Zi told Mei Ling about the conflict within the Chinese community that had been escalating lately. He worried that the conflict between Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong would become bigger and cause harm to the whole Chinese community in San Francisco. For that reason, he asked Mei Ling to arrange a meeting with the leader of Hop Wai Tong before the war between those two biggest Tongs happened. But instead of meeting with the leader of Hop Wai Tong, Mei Ling met with Walter, the deputy mayor of San Francisco. Turned out, Mei Ling had been working for the American government as a spy secretly. The American government needed the information that Mei Ling provided them so that they could control the Chinese community easily. They purposely pitted the biggest Tongs in Chinatown, Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong, against each other because they were afraid that they would become a threat if they united. During the meeting, Walter gave Mei Ling drug and asked her to use the drug to pit Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong against each other. Mei Ling promised that the peace between the Tongs would not happen in Chinatown. The next day, Toy heard that the members of the Irish labor union who had murdered 2 Chinese laborers had been released from the prison after Dylan bribed the police. She was angry when she heard that and decided to handle everything by herself. At night, she came to see those 2 Irishmen and killed them. The next morning, Bill and Richard found the dead bodies of those 2 Irishmen. As the leader of the union, Dylan was furious when he found out that those dead bodies belonged to the members of the Irish labor union, whom he freed from the prison another day. He believed that the Chinese was the one who murdered them and pressured Bill to arrest the murderer soon. He also asked Bill to return the money that he had given him another day to bribe him. Bill didn't know how to return the money because he had spent it to pay off his debt. While Bill and Dylan were still having a conversation, a police officer suddenly came to that place and informed them that some Chinese men were found dead in the harbor. Bill was surprised when he heard that. He rushed to the harbor right away. When he arrived in that place, he found out that those Chinese men were the members of Long Zi Tong. It was revealed that Ah Sam, Young Jun, and a member of Hop Wei Tong were the ones who murdered those men. They killed them after they found out that Long Zi Tong tried to smuggle opium, the main business of Hop Wei Tong. After they killed those men, they burned down the opium to warn the rest of Long Zi Tong. They didn't know that Mei Ling was the person responsible behind it all. She pitted Hop Wei Tong and Long Zi Tong against each other so that the conflict within Chinese community kept happening. Not long after that, Lai Yong arrived in that place. He was sent to that place to pick those dead bodies up. Long Zi was mad when he found out about what happened to the members of his Tong. He urged Mei Ling to arrange a meeting with the leader of Hop Wei Tong to discuss about this problem. He was tired of losing another member of his Tong because of the conflict between the Tongs. He worried that his health condition would continue to deteriorate due to his old age, and he would be no longer there to take care of this problem. But Mei Ling assured Long Zi that the opium business was so promising, and that was why Hop Wei Tong could have better financial than Long Zi Tong. She tried to convince her husband that it was all right to break the agreement that had been made by Hop Wei Tong and Long Zi Tong for the opium business. At night, Li Yong and other members of Long Zi Tong confronted a police officer who had betrayed their Tong by becoming a double agent. They were angry at that police officer. They thought that it was because of him that the members of their Tong got murdered last night. Because of that, they came to that place to take revenge on that police officer. The next day, Penelope and her assistant, a Chinese man, were visiting downtown. But suddenly, two drunk Irishmen approached them and harassed them. They even harassed Penelope because they didn't know who Penelope was. But fortunately, Ah Sam suddenly showed up in that place and helped Penelope. After a while, he finally managed to defeat those Irishmen. Bill was there when Ah Sam attacked those Irishmen. But instead of thanking Ah Sam for saving Penelope, the wife of the mayor of San Francisco, Bill took him to the police station to interrogate him. After that, Wang Chao rushed to Hop Wei Tong's headquarters and informed Father Jun that Ah Sam had been arrested by the police. But Father Jun refused to free Ah Sam because he thought that it would be harmful for their Tong. He argued that the American government had been watching over Chinatown lately, and he didn't want to add another spotlight for the Chinese community. He was afraid that what they did to save Ah Sam would affect their business. Penelope went to the mayor's office to talk to her husband. She asked Samuel to talk to the police and free Ah Sam. She felt guilty for what happened to Ah Sam. She thought that it was because of her that Ah Sam got arrested by the police. But Samuel immediately rejected her request. He argued that Ah Sam was a member of Hop Wei Tong, the criminal organization that was known for their cruelty and brutality, and he was afraid that getting associated with Hop Wei Tong would damage his reputation. Penelope was mad when she heard that. After Penelope left the room, Samuel and Penelope's father, Byron Mercer, had a meeting. During the meeting, they discussed about the big project that Samuel promised. That big project was about the intercity railway that would be funded by the local government. It was revealed that Byron forced Penelope to marry Samuel, the mayor of San Francisco, to save his failing business. Dallin, the leader of Workingmen's Party of California, found out that Byron would handle a big project that was given by Samuel. He thought that the project would be the best opportunity for the Irish to have jobs. So he came to see Samuel and asked him to prioritize hiring Irish workers instead of Chinese workers for the project. After Penelope failed to persuade her husband to help Ah Sam, she finally decided to go to the police station by herself. She came to that place to meet with Ah Sam and thank him for saving her. She also apologized to him because she couldn't free him from the prison. She was surprised when she found out that Ah Sam could speak English fluently. Ah Sam told Penelope about the situation that Chinese community was facing right now. He explained that the police were looking for someone to blame for the deaths of the two Irishmen who were killed by Atoy another day. He said that the police did that to stop Dylan and other members of the Irish labor union from protesting. For that reason, he couldn't do anything but to accept his punishment. Not long after that, Ah Sam attended the court. During the trial, he was interrogated about beating up the two Irishmen another day. The prosecutor also accused Ah Sam of murdering those Irishmen. They didn't know that Atoy was the one who murdered those Irishmen. But since there was no evidence that Assam was responsible for the deaths of the two Irishmen, the judge couldn't do anything about the accusation. Assam's lawyer defended his client by saying that what Assam was doing was only a self-defense. He beat up those drunk Irishmen to defend himself and the mayor's wife. The judge finally decided to give Assam a chance. He asked the party who reported Assam to bring a witness to the court next time. He said that if there was no witness who gave testimony that Assam had murdered those two Irishmen, then Assam would get released from the prison. Dylan was mad with the judge's decision. He thought that the judge didn't take care of this case seriously. He pressured Bill to make sure that Assam would receive his punishment for murdering the members of his labor union. He also hired some men to beat Assam up in his cell. But since Assam was a martial arts prodigy, he managed to attack and defeat those men easily. In another place, Mei Ling had a meeting with a casino manager. The casino manager gave some money to Mei Ling. He suggested Mei Ling to add more tables in the casino since there were many people who visited their casino lately. He thought that by adding more tables, they could serve more customers and hence earn more money. As the owner of the casino, Mei Ling thought that it was a good idea. She immediately agreed with his suggestion. Not long after that, Lai Yong came to that place. He told Mei Ling that Assam was arrested by the police. Even though Assam was a member of Hop Wai Tong, the rival Tong of Long Zi Tong, Mei Ling worried when she heard that. She rushed to the house of the Irishmen who would attend the court to give their testimony that Assam was responsible for the deaths of the two Irishmen. Mei Ling threatened that she would kill their family if they attended the court. The next day, after getting threatened by Mei Ling, the Irishmen didn't attend the court. Because of that, the judge finally decided to drop the charges against Assam and declare that he was not guilty. The members of the Irish labor union who attended the court were mad when they heard the judge's decision. The situation in the courtroom was getting wild as those people began to protest against the judge and go berserk. Samuel, the mayor of San Francisco, came to that place and tried to calm the crowd down. But it appeared that he only did that to gain the sympathy of the anti-Chinese white voters so that they would choose him again in the next election. Just like any other politicians, he was a manipulative person and a liar who would do anything to achieve his goals. Assam was struggling to leave the courtroom because of the crowd that protested in front of the courtroom building. Bill saw him and helped him by showing him how to leave the courtroom through the back door. When Assam arrived at the back door, he saw Wang Chao already waiting for him there. Wang Chao came to that place to pick Assam up and take him back to Hop Wai Tong's headquarters. It appeared that unlike the majority of the Irishmen in San Francisco, Bill didn't have racial sentiment toward the Chinese community, and that he only arrested Assam because he needed to be professional. In the carriage, while Wang Chao and Assam were heading to Hop Wai Tong's headquarters, Wang Chao told Assam that the person who helped him to get released from the prison was not the leader of Hop Wai Tong, but Mei Ling. Assam pretended that he didn't know who Mei Ling was. It seemed that aside from Assam and Mei Ling themselves, nobody knew that they were siblings. When Assam arrived in Hop Wai Tong's headquarters, Young Jun and other members of Hop Wai Tong greeted him warmly. Young Jun asked Assam and the members of Hop Wai Tong to have a drink together to celebrate Assam's release from the prison. Not long after that, while the members of Hop Wai Tong were having a drink together, Father Jun, the leader of Hop Wai Tong, came to that place. He was angry at Assam because he was being careless. He had been acting without thinking about the consequences that his Tong would receive. He approached Assam and punished him in front of everyone there. After he thought that it was enough, he stopped beating Assam up and welcomed him back to the Tong. After that, a man approached Assam and gave him an envelope. Penelope was the one who sent that envelope to him. Assam was confused when he received that envelope. He immediately followed that man so that he could return that envelope to Penelope. After a while, Assam finally met Penelope in person. It appeared that Assam and Penelope were interested in each other. Meanwhile, Dylan and other members of the Irish labor union were visiting the house of the Irishmen, who were supposed to attend the court to give their testimony that Assam was responsible for the deaths of their friends. Dylan was angry because those Irishmen didn't attend the court like they were supposed to do. He then forced those Irishmen and their family to leave the town and even set fire to their house. Bill went to the casino that was owned by a Chinese criminal organization called Feng Hai Tong. Even though Feng Hai Tong was not as great as Hop Wai Tong or Long Zi Tong, they were also known for their cruelty and brutality. They also had several businesses that helped them to operate until this day. Bill went to that casino because he liked to gamble. Even though he had never won, he always returned to that casino to gamble. He even borrowed some money from his friend so that he could gamble again. But unfortunately, he lost again and he needed to pay off his debt. Since he didn't have money to pay off his debt, the casino beat him up and gave him 3 weeks to pay off his debt. After the judge dropped the charges against Ah Sam and caused the commotion in the courtroom another day, Walter went to the police station to talk to Russell, the chief of police. On the order of the mayor, Walter pressured Russell to do something with the illegal businesses in Chinatown. After Russell heard that, he immediately did what he asked him. He also asked Richard to go to Bill's house to get Bill and catch up with him afterward. After that, Walter returned to the mayor's office, but he didn't find the mayor there. He then went to the brothel that was usually visited by Samuel. It was revealed that Samuel visited that place to save his reputation in front of the police because he already sent Russell and Bill to raid that place. After a while, Bill and his team finally arrived in that place and raided that place. But sadly, they only arrested the Chinese who visited that place and let the Irishmen go. A member of a Tong tried to fight the police back, but Bill immediately shot that man to death. Richard was surprised when he saw that. After that, Bill went to Ah Toy's brothel to raid that place too. But after Ah Toy bribed him, Bill finally canceled his plan to raid that place. He accepted the bribery from Ah Toy because he needed money to pay off his debts to Feng Hai Tong. Richard saw that and his opinion of Bill worsened. The police officers took the Chinese immigrants that they arrested to the police station. The mayor came to that place and ordered the journalists there to write the news reports as if those Chinese immigrants were criminals. He wanted the world to think that what he was doing was to discipline the illegal businesses in Chinatown. Just like usual, he did that to gain sympathy from the anti-Chinese white voters so that they would choose him again in the next election. In Hop Wai Tong's headquarters, the members of Hop Wai Tong were having a breakfast together. While they were having a breakfast, young Jun introduced Ah Sam to Father Jun's right-hand man, Bolo. Bolo was a former railroad worker turned into underground fighter. He was known as a great fighter that he got the Yellow Devil as his nickname. Since Father Jun saved him, Bolo became the Hop Wei's primary muscle and assassin. Father Jun also trusted him to become his right-hand man until this day. After that, Jacob, Penelope's loyal Chinese manservant, took Ah Sam to Penelope's room. In that room, Penelope and Ah Sam were having sex. Ah Sam revealed to Penelope that he came to San Francisco to find his sister. Penelope also revealed to Ah Sam that she only married the mayor so that she could save her father's failing business and her sisters could live properly. Mei Ling went to Wang Chio's gun shop to buy a firearm from Wang Chio. She also asked Wang Chio to arrange a meeting with the leader of Feng Hai Tong. She knew that aside from being an illegal arms dealer, Wang Chio was also known as a businessman who knew many important people in town. Wang Chio tried to stop Mei Ling from having a meeting with Feng Hai Tong because he thought that it was the worst Tong in town. But after he saw Mei Ling's confidence, he finally agreed to do what Mei Ling asked him. A few days later, Feng Hai Tong and Long Zi Tong finally had a meeting. Mei Ling was sick of the leader of Feng Hai Tong, who liked to degrade women. So she decided to put poison into his food. She was happy when the leader of Feng Hai Tong died not long after he consumed the food. Turned out, Mei Ling had been working together with the leader of Feng Hai Tong's successor, Xing. Mei Ling wanted Xing to become the leader of Feng Hai Tong because she thought that he was easier to be controlled. At night, Mei Ling met with Ah Sam secretly. She asked Ah Sam to talk to her in private. She warned Ah Sam that the Great War between the Tongs would break out soon. She worried about Ah Sam's safety. So she gave him a ticket to return to China and told him that it would be her last offer of goodwill. Ah Sam refused to accept the ticket. He ripped the ticket and promised that this time he would be the one to save Mei Ling. The next day, Ah Sam and Young Jun were tasked by Father Jun to transport a coffin from Nevada to San Francisco. They transported the coffin by using a carriage. In the carriage, there were also a priest, a married couple, and a thug. While Ah Sam and Young Jun were heading to San Francisco, they were treated poorly by the married couple and the thug. Those people were being racist to them by mocking the Chinese in front of them as if they didn't understand about what they were talking about. The priest was annoyed when he heard that. He interrupted them and reminded them that in front of God, humans were all the same, and it was them who differentiated themselves, as if some of them were more superior than others. Suddenly, the carriage driver stopped driving the carriage. He told Ah Sam and other passengers that the horses were weary and the night would come soon. For that reason, he decided to stay overnight at a saloon and continue their journey the next day. Young Jun worried that the animals would eat the dead body inside of the coffin, so he decided to get the coffin and take it with him to the saloon. Turned out, the saloon was owned by a Chinese man named Lu and his American wife Billy. Lu knew that Ah Sam and Young Jun missed their home, China, so he served some Chinese meals to them to help them with their homesickness. He also told them about how he and his American wife built the saloon together from the scratch. Not long after that, the thug that drove the carriage with Ah Sam and other passengers began to make a scene. This time, he harassed Wankia, the saloon's Native American prostitute. Young Jun was angry when he saw that. This time, he decided that he couldn't tolerate that racist thug anymore. He tried to fight him back, but that thug suddenly put out his gun and threatened him with it. Suddenly, a gang of bandits came to that place and shot the thug's head. The thug died instantly because of that. The gang of bandits was led by a man named Harlan French. They came to that place to rob the owners of the saloon and the passengers of the carriage. Turned out those bandits had been working together with the carriage driver. At first, Young Jun and Ah Sam were willing to give their money to those bandits, but those bandits asked them for more. They asked them to give them the coffin that they brought. Because of that, Young Jun and Ah Sam finally decided to attack those bandits. After a while, they finally managed to defeat 3 bandits. Unfortunately, the leader of the bandits, Harlan, managed to run away from them. After Harlan left that place, people in the saloon began to wonder about what Ah Sam and Young Jun kept in the coffin. They thought that it was because of that coffin that those bandits came to that place and attacked them. Ah Sam finally decided to open the coffin and cut the dead body's chest. Everybody in that place was surprised when they found out that there was gold inside that dead body's chest. They now knew about the reason why those bandits were after that coffin. Billy was afraid when she saw that. She believed that more bandits would come to that place at night to rob the gold and to take revenge for the deaths of their friends. Ah Sam finally revealed to them that he could speak English and he understood everything that they were talking about. He told Billy that he and Young Jun were going to leave that place, but Billy said that they couldn't just leave. Lu even took out his firearm and aimed it at Ah Sam and Young Jun. He asked them to get rid of the mess that they created, because he thought that it was because of them and their coffin that those bandits came to his saloon. Ah Sam and Young Jun finally decided to stay and create a plan to fight the bandits who would come to that place soon. At night, just like what Billy thought, Harlan returned to the saloon with a larger crew. When Harlan and his crew arrived in that place, they saw Ah Sam already waiting for them there, sitting on the coffin that they were after. Ah Sam tried to negotiate with Harlan and asked him to leave that place peacefully. Harlan and his crew thought that he was being funny. Turned out, Ah Sam pretended to negotiate with them so that they dropped their guard. When they lowered their guard, Ah Sam, Young Jun, the owners of the saloon, and the surviving passengers suddenly attacked them. After a while, they'd finally managed to defeat Harlan and other bandits. The next morning, Ah Sam and Young Jun prepared themselves to deliver the gold that they found inside the corpse in the coffin. They planned to continue their journey by riding horses. The owners of the saloon, Billy and Lu, received the bounty after they collected the dead bodies of the bandits and gave them to the police. They also finally managed to get recognition from the local community after they defeated those bandits. A few days later, the Chinese community celebrated Chinese New Year in Chinatown. Mei Ling, Lai Yang, and the leader of Hop Wai Tong also celebrated Chinese New Year in that place. Bill and Richard were also sent to that place to watch over that area. But suddenly, while Father Jun was at the podium, the members of Feng Hai Tong threw a grenade at him, which was followed by a big explosion. Because of that explosion, the Chinese New Year festival that was supposed to be happy and pleasant suddenly turned into a tragedy. Many people died and got injured in that explosion. But fortunately, Father Jun, the main target of the explosion, managed to survive even though he still needed to be hospitalized. After that, Sam came to see young Jun to check on him. Young Jun worried about his father. He assumed that the people who were responsible for the incident were the members of Feng Hai Tong after he noticed the tattoos on their faces. But he still had no idea about the reason why Feng Hai Tong attacked them because as far as he remembered, Hop Wai Tong and Feng Hai Tong were not in bad terms. To find out about what had happened, young Jun finally came to see Wang Chao and asked him if he knew anything about the incident. After young Jun talked to Wang Chao, he finally learned that the assassination attempt on Father Jun during the Chinese New Year festival was perpetrated by Feng Hai Tong and their new allies, Long Zi Tong. It was revealed that Feng Hai Tong and Long Zi Tong worked together to steal Hop Wai Tong's opium business. Sam, Young Jun, and Bolo were furious when they found out about that. Because of that, at night, they went to Feng Hai Tong's headquarters to take revenge on Feng Hai Tong for the assassination attempt on Father Jun. When they arrived in that place, they began to brutally attack all members of Feng Hai Tong there. After a while, they finally managed to defeat all of them. At a restaurant, the members of Long Zi Tong were having a dinner together. Long Zi had no idea that Mei Ling and Li Yang had secretly planned to kill the leader of Hop Wai Tong. While they were having a dinner, a carriage suddenly arrived in that place. From inside of the carriage, a man fired his firearm at that place and left a dead body of a member of Feng Hai Tong, who was killed by young Jun earlier there. Long Zi was surprised when he saw that. He was mad as he realized that his wife Mei Ling had been making a move behind his back. As the leader of Long Zi Tong, he felt responsible for the incident that had happened because it involved him and his Tong. Because of that, he finally decided to have a meeting with the leader of Hop Wai Tong, Father Jun, at a temple in the evening. Long Zi apologized to Father Jun for what his subordinates had done. He said that he would take the responsibility for the incident that had happened. He also hoped that the incident wouldn't affect their effort to reconcile with each other. Father Jun said that he knew that Long Zi was not the person who was responsible for the incident that happened recently. He understood that Long Zi was not a coward who would do something like that. He remembered that 30 years ago, when Long Zi was at the peak of his career, he was the most respected leader in Chinatown he had ever known. Regarding the incident that had happened, Father Jun only asked Long Zi to take care of Feng Hai Tong first before they agreed to a ceasefire. Despite Long Zi and Father Jun agreed to make a deal, it seemed that the war between their Tongs would still continue. Even though it didn't show, Long Zi was aware that Father Jun would kill him soon. When Bill returned home, he saw Jack Damon, the debt collector for Feng Hai Tong, already waiting for him there. Since it had been 3 weeks, Jack came to that place to collect Bill's debts owed to Feng Hai Tong. Bill didn't want his wife to know about the debts that he owed to Feng Hai Tong, so he asked Jack to meet him at a place at 10 in the evening to discuss about the debts that he owed to Feng Hai Tong. In the evening, before Bill met with Jack, he came to see Dylan and asked him for help. He knew that Dylan despised the Chinese. So, he wanted to use Dylan's hatred for the Chinese to help him to get rid of Jack, the Irishman who was working for the Chinese criminal organization. Not long after that, Jack came to that place to collect Bill's debts owed to Feng Hai Tong. Before Jack left that place, Dylan asked him to fight him for 2 rounds. He said that if Jack managed to survive, then he could leave that place. It was revealed that Dylan challenged Jack in a fight because he didn't like the fact that Jack was working for the Chinese. He thought that as an Irishman, Jack was supposed to work together with him and his crew to force the Chinese to leave San Francisco. But instead of doing that, Jack was working for the Chinese and Dylan saw it as a betrayal and humiliation. Jack accepted the challenge and the two of them began to have a fight. Jack was struggling to fight Dylan back. He could only avoid his attacks and try his best to survive. After a while, Dylan finally managed to defeat him and beat him black and blue. Once Jack was dying, Dylan asked Bill to finish him off. He was afraid that something bad would happen if they didn't kill Jack. He said that he couldn't promise that he could protect Bill anymore if that happened. After Long Z had a meeting with Father John another day, he decided to stay in his hiding place that was located far from Chinatown. He was afraid that Father John and his men would come to his house to kill him. Meanwhile, Ah Sam and Young Jun were enjoying spending their Saturday night together. Young Jun told Ah Sam that Father Jun had sent Bolo to Long Zi's hiding place to kill Long Z and his wife, Mei Ling. Ah Sam panicked when he heard that. He realized that his sister was in danger because he knew that Bolo was a great fighter. For that reason, he told Young Jun that he needed to leave that place soon. He then rushed to Long Zi's hiding place to save Mei Ling. After a while, Bolo finally arrived in Long Zi's hiding place. He began to attack Long Zi's subordinates who guarded that place and managed to defeat all of them. Mei Ling realized that Bolo had reached that place. She immediately took her dagger and tried to attack Bolo with it. But unfortunately, Bolo avoided her attack easily and even managed to attack her back. When he was about to kill her, Ah Sam suddenly came to that place and attacked him. Two greatest fighters in Hop Wai Tong, Ah Sam and Bolo, then had a fight. For the second time in his life, Ah Sam found another opponent who matched his fighting skill. He was struggling to fight Bolo because Bolo was more powerful and strong than him. It seemed that the nickname that Bolo got from people around him, the Yellow Devil, was not for nothing. But after a while, Ah Sam finally managed to attack him back and even kill him with the help of Mei Ling. After Mei Ling and Ah Sam defeated Bolo, Mei Ling asked her brother to leave that place before the members of Hop Wai Tong came to that place and saw him there. After Ah Sam left that place, Mei Ling returned to her room and met with her husband for the last time. She grabbed her sword and decided to kill Long Z with it. Now that Long Z was dead, Mei Ling could become the next leader of Long Z Tong. The next day, the Chinese community was shocked by the dead body of Bolo that was hanged from a building. The members of Hop Wai Tong were more shocked when they saw Bolo's dead body because it was a message that meant the declaration of war. Father Jun was furious when he found out about what happened. He gathered the members of Hop Wai Tong and ordered them to take revenge on Long Z Tong for the death of his right-hand man. Meanwhile, Mei Ling was attending the funeral of her late husband, Long Z. Now that Long Z was dead, she had officially become the next leader of Long Z Tong. The members of Long Z Tong were saddened by the death of Long Z, but Mei Ling motivated them and encouraged them to show the world that they were a sleeping tiger and they had just woken up from their sleep. The war between Hop Wai Tong and Long Z Tong finally broke out. The members of Hop Wai Tong and the members of Long Z Tong got out of their headquarters and began to brutally attack each other. Many people died in that war. Not long after that, Bill, Richard, and a team from San Francisco Police Department arrived in that place. They were surprised when they saw many dead bodies lying on the ground. Walter and an anti-Chinese senator named Robert Crestwood also arrived in that place. They brought some journalists with them. Robert blamed the police for the war between the Tongs that had just broken out. He thought that it was because of them that the Chinese disobeyed the American laws. He thought that the problems that were caused by the Chinese had brought disadvantages to the Irishmen who always obeyed the laws and paid their taxes. Since Robert sought to become president, he thought that the incident that had just happened was a good opportunity for him to gain sympathy from the anti-Chinese white voters. In front of public, he asked the police to block entry of people from China. At Hop Wai Tong's headquarters, Wang Chao revealed that someone sent him to that place to help Hop Wai Tong and Long Z Tong to reconcile with each other. The next day, for the first time after the war broke out, the leader of Hop Wai Tong and the leader of Long Z Tong finally had a meeting. It was revealed that a Chinese businessman named Lao Ting was the one who initiated the meeting. Lao Ting asked Hop Wai Tong and Long Z Tong to make peace because the conflict between them had put the Chinatown Business Association in danger. But since both Father Jun and Mei Ling refused to reconcile with each other, Lao Ting finally suggested that they settled their differences over a duel between their best fighters. If Long Zitong won, then they would be allowed to transport opium in their territory. But if Hop Wei Tong won, then the status quo would be maintained, which was that Long Zitong was not allowed to deal with opium business for the next 5 years. Father Jun and Mei Ling thought that it was a good idea, and they finally agreed to do that. When Ah Sam returned to Hop Wei Tong's headquarters, he saw 4 men already waiting for him there. Those men attacked him as soon as he arrived in that place. But as usual, Ah Sam managed to defeat all those men easily. Turned out Father Jun was the one who ordered those men to attack Ah Sam. He did that because he wanted to see if he could send Ah Sam to the upcoming duel or not. After he found out that Ah Sam managed to defeat all those men easily, he asked him to represent Hop Wei Tong as their best fighter in the upcoming duel. Ah Sam agreed to do that. At night, Mei Ling met with Ah Sam after she heard that Ah Sam would be the one who represented Hop Wei Tong as their best fighter in the upcoming duel. Mei Ling worried about Ah Sam because he would fight against Lai Yong, Long Zitong's best fighter, in the upcoming duel. She asked Ah Sam to forget about the duel, but Ah Sam immediately refused to do that. The next day, Penelope's father, Byron, met with Dylan. In that meeting, they discussed about the mass hiring regarding of the new project that Byron handled. That big project was given by the mayor of San Francisco, Samuel, and would be started soon. Byron promised Dylan that he would hire the Irishman to work for that project. The Irishmen, who had been jobless for so long, were happy when they heard that. They even called Byron a hero because they thought that he had saved them. Before the battle took place, Ah Sam and Lei Yong were training hard for days and nights. A week later, the battle between the best fighters of Hop Wei Tong and Long Zitong was finally being held. That event was attended by many people, including Bill and Richard, who were currently in Chinatown to watch over that area. They thought that it was only a random duel and not a serious duel that would decide the future for the biggest Tongs in town, Hop Wei Tong and Long Zitong. Not long after that, the battle finally began. The Chinese opened the battle by performing a sacred ritual that they inherited from their ancestors. The rule was that anyone who managed to grab the cloth that was worn by their opponent first would become the winner. As soon as the battle began, Ah Sam and Lai Yong began to attack each other. At first, Ah Sam managed to attack Lai Yong easily without even giving him a chance to fight him back. The audience cheered for Ah Sam because of that. Ah Sam thought that he was going to win this battle. He kept attacking Lai Yong again and again. He didn't realize that Lai Yong didn't fight back because he wanted him to get exhausted. When Ah Sam began to drop his guard, Lai Yong finally began to attack him back. Ah Sam was surprised when he saw that. He tried to fight Lai Yong back, but he was already too exhausted to do that. Because of that, Lai Yong managed to beat him up easily. When Mei Ling ordered Lai Yong to kill Ah Sam, Bill suddenly fired his gun and stopped the battle. Bill thought that it was only a random battle, so he was shocked when he saw Lai Yong trying to kill Ah Sam. Since Bill had stopped the battle, Lai Yong couldn't kill Ah Sam and could only grab the cloth that he was wearing, which meant that he was the winner in this battle. Now that Long Zitong had won the battle, Hop Wei Tong needed to keep their promise to allow them to transport opium in their territory. Since Ah Sam lost the battle and made Hop Wei Tong suffer a big loss, Father Jun decided to banish him from Hop Wei Tong. Ah Toi found him and decided to save him. Ah Sam was getting better as he was taken in and nursed by Ah Toi. While he was receiving treatment at Ah Toi's place, he suddenly remembered about the time when he was a child. It was revealed that Ah Sam began to learn Kung Fu when he was a child. His teacher, Sifu Li Kuang, realized that he had a big potency, so he decided to take Ah Sam to the city to learn more about Kung Fu. Because of that, Ah Sam needed to leave his village and his sister Mangling. Back to the present time, when Ah Sam woke up from his faint, he saw Young Jun in that room. Young Jun came to that place to visit Ah Sam, and to tell him that Father Jun had banished him from Hop Wei Tong. He also said that Father Jun would kill Ah Sam if he joined another Tong. The next day, Walter went to Byron's steel mill. He came to that place to tell Byron that there was another vendor that sold the products that they needed to build the railway at lower prices. Byron knew about the vendor that Walter was talking about. He said that that vendor could sell products at lower prices because instead of using the local workers, they used the migrant workers who could be paid with lower salary. Walter suggested Byron to use the migrant workers too, so that they wouldn't spend that much money to pay them. Aside from saving budget, he did this so that the government wouldn't suspect them for spending so much money for the railway project. He worried about what people would think if they spent so much money for the railway project, especially when the project was handled by the mayor's father-in-law himself. At night, while Richard was patrolling Chinatown by himself, some members of Feng Hai Tong suddenly attacked him. At first, Richard managed to attack them back, but when the leader of Feng Hai Tong, Xing, attacked him, he began to struggle. He tried to attack him back, but he was unable to do that. After a while, Xing finally managed to defeat Richard and beat him black and blue. Bill was angry when he found out that his subordinate had been beaten up by Feng Hai Tong. So he went to Feng Hai Tong's headquarters to take revenge on Xing and his subordinates. When he arrived in that place, he took out his gun and held a member of Feng Hai Tong hostage. Suddenly, Xing showed up in that place and threatened Bill back. He aimed his gun at Bill and finally managed to handle the situation well. Instead of taking revenge on Feng Hai Tong for what they did to Richard, Bill was defeated by Xing, the leader of Feng Hai Tong. Since Bill still owed debts to Feng Hai Tong, Xing told him to pay off his debts by becoming his right-hand man. Bill couldn't do anything but to do what he asked him. Because of the incident that happened to Richard, the police began to hunt down some Chinese to take revenge for what they did to Richard. But instead of arresting Feng Hai Tong, the police arrested the members of Long Zi Tong, who were not responsible for the incident that happened to Richard. Mei Ling was mad when she found out about that. She then asked Xing, the leader of Feng Hai Tong, to meet with her. During the meeting, Mei Ling warned Xing to be careful next time. She was afraid that what Xing and his subordinates did would put her opium business in danger. From that meeting, Mei Ling finally realized that what Wang Qiu said about Feng Hai Tong was true. She realized that Xing was only using Long Zi to kill the previous leader of Feng Hai Tong. She was disappointed at herself when she realized that she had made a mistake by thinking that she could control Feng Hai Tong easier if Xing became the leader of Feng Hai Tong. Since Assam got banished from Hop Wai Tong, he decided to live in a slum and work as a laborer to survive. Wang Chao felt bad for him when he found out about what happened to him. He then offered Assam to work at a factory where he would get paid with a better salary. Young Jun also went to the slum to visit Assam and ask him to return to Hop Wai Tong. He finally managed to convince his father to allow Assam to return to their tong after he begged him to do that. But Assam immediately rejected his offer because he was still angry at Hop Wai Tong for banishing him just like that. He then approached Wang Chao and accepted his offer to work at a factory. Penelope went to his father's workroom and saw the company's financial records on the table. From those financial records, she found out that her father's business was going to fail again. She was surprised and mad when she found out about it. She suggested her father to hire many workers to prevent his business from failing again. After that, she left her father's workroom and planned to smoke to relieve her stress. While she was leaving her father's workroom, she saw Assam working in that place. She was surprised when she saw him there. She regretted Assam's decision to work as a laborer because she thought that with his English skill, he could find a better job. She offered Assam another job, but Assam rejected her offer and left her instead. In another place, Dilling was angry when he found out that Byron had broken his promise to only hire the Irishmen for the railway project by replacing the members of the Irish labor union with the Chinese. He then went to Byron's factory and confronted Byron about it. Byron tried to calm him down by explaining that he did that because Walter had cut the operating budget that was given by the mayor for the railway project without his permission. But the angry Dylan refused to accept his excuse. He threatened that he and all members of the Irish labor union would raid that place if Byron didn't fire the Chinese who worked there. After that, Dylan came to see Walter to confront him about what he had done. He was mad when he found out that it was because of Walter that Byron fired a member of the Irish Labor Union and replaced him with a Chinese. He threatened Walter, but Walter was not afraid of his threat. Walter thought that he had done the right thing because he also wanted the Chinese to leave their town. But unlike Dillon, who used violence, he used his privileges as the deputy mayor of San Francisco to force the Chinese to leave the town. A few days later, Dillon and other members of the Irish Labor Union finally decided to come to Byron's factory and attack the Chinese who worked there. Dillon was angry because Byron didn't listen to him to fire the Chinese who worked in that place. Byron was surprised when he saw Dillon and his crew attacking the Chinese there. He ordered his subordinates to call the police before something worse happened in that place. After that, he returned to his workroom to get his gun. But because he was overwhelmed with fear and panic, he suddenly had a heart attack and died. Meanwhile, Dillon and other members of the Irish Labor Union were still attacking the Chinese who worked in that place. At first, Assam refused to do anything because he didn't want to become the center of attention. But he couldn't tolerate it anymore when he saw Dillon and his crew torturing those innocent people. He finally decided to attack those members of the Irish Labor Union. But while he was busy beating them up, Dillon suddenly showed up from behind and attacked him. For the first time in his life, Assam finally found a non-Chinese opponent who matched his fighting skill. Unlike other Chinese opponents with great fighting skills whom he had fought before, Dillon possessed his great fighting skill not by learning kung fu, but by years of being a street fighter. While Assam and Dillon were still having a fight, some police officers suddenly arrived in that place. Assam and Dillon then decided to stop fighting and run away from that place. After that, Assam went to Ah Toy's place. He thanked Ah Toy for saving him and nursing him when he was wounded back then. He also finally decided to return to Hop Wei Tong so that he could protect the Chinese community in that town. At night, Assam joined a fight club to train himself. That fight club was owned by a Mexican woman named Rosalita Vega. During the fight, Assam fought some white men who were bigger and stronger than him. At first, he was struggling to fight them back, but after a while, he finally managed to defeat all of them. After the battle was over, the owner of the fight club, Rosalita, approached him and gave him some money as the reward for winning the battle. But Assam told her that he only came to that place to have fun. Because Long Zi Tong had won the battle, they were finally allowed to transport opium in their territory. Despite that, Young Jun still didn't like the fact that Long Zi Tong dealt in opium business. He kept urging his father to take care of that problem soon, but Father Jun, who had been dealing in that business for years, asked him to be patient and not to be careless. He believed that one day there would be a war between Long Zi Tong and Feng Hai Tong. He told Young Jun to wait until the war between Long Zi Tong and Feng Hai Tong broke out. He thought that the war between Long Zi Tong and Feng Hai Tong would be the best opportunity for them to attack Long Zi Tong, especially with the help of the 6 companies that supported them. At night, some local thugs and Irishmen were harassing some Chinese and holding them captive. Ah Toy and Ah Sam were angry when they found out about that. They rushed to the place where those Irishmen held the Chinese captive and attacked them. After a while, they finally managed to defeat all of them. The next day, Bill, Richard, and some police officers went to the place where Ah Toy and Ah Sam attacked the Irishmen last night. At first, they thought that the person who was responsible for the deaths of those people was an expert swordsman. But after they checked their dead bodies, they concluded that those Irishmen were murdered by more than one person. The local community was angry when they found out about the deaths of those Irishmen. They decided to beat the Chinese up to take revenge on the Chinese for what happened to those Irishmen. Meanwhile, Young Jun was still trying to find a way to attack Long Zi Tong. He finally realized that the opium that was traded by Long Zi Tong was not from China. For that reason, Long Zi Tong managed to sell opium at a lower price and hence attracted more customers, including the customers of Hop Wei Tong. As soon as Young Jun realized about that fact, he told Father Jun about this. After Father Jun heard that, he decided to keep importing opium from China because it had good quality. Aside from that, he also decided to keep working with the 6 companies that had been supporting his business all this time. Assam finally suggested Young Jun to buy local opium without the knowledge of Father Jun, even though the quality of the local opium was not as good as the quality of the opium that was imported from China. They could cut the budget of the opium purchase so that they could compete with Long Zi Tong. Young Jun thought that it was a good idea and decided to find the supplier where they could find the good local opium. At night, Assam returned to Rosalita's fight club to train himself again. The fighters who joined that fight club highly respected Assam because he had never lost a fight all this time. Rosalita realized that Assam was a great fighter, so she asked Assam to join a bigger fight club that had more participants and offered bigger prize money. Assam asked Rosalita to help him to find a good supplier that sold good local opium. Bill began to work for Feng Haitom as their debt collector. Even though it was a shame for the Irishman to work for the Chinese, Bill agreed to work for Feng Haitom because the pay was good and he currently needed a lot of money. Because of that, he finally became more involved in the problems that occurred between the Chinese Tongs. Aside from secretly working for the Chinese, Bill was still working as a police officer. He led the investigation about the case of the Irishmen who were murdered by Atoy and Assam another day. That afternoon, he came to see Wang Chao to interrogate him. He thought that Wang Chao might know something about the Chinese who were good with swords since he was an arms dealer. But Wang Chao said that he didn't know anything about the case. Turned out, Wang Chao somehow knew that Atoy was the one responsible for the deaths of those Irishmen. At night, he came to Atoy's brothel to talk to Atoy. He asked Atoy to stop what she was doing because it affected his business. He said that because of what Atoy had done, the police seized all weapons that he was selling. Since Atoy highly respected Wang Chao, she promised to stop doing what she was doing for a while. The next morning, the mayor of San Francisco was having a breakfast with his wife, Penelope. Since Penelope's father passed away because of heart attack, Penelope had been becoming the chief executive officer of her family's steel mill. Samuel didn't want Penelope to get occupied with her work as the chief executive officer. So he asked Penelope to stop working and focus on being a housewife. But Penelope immediately refused his request because she enjoyed being a career woman. While Penelope and Samuel were having a conversation, Sophie Mercer, Penelope's younger sister, suddenly came to the dining room and interrupted them. Since Byron died, Sophie had been living with Penelope and Samuel in their house. It appeared that Samuel and Sophie often got into arguments because they didn't like each other. Apparently, the real reason why Samuel wanted Penelope to stop working at Byron's steel mill was because he wanted the Chinese to leave San Francisco. As usual, he did that because of the political reason. He wanted to gain the sympathy of the anti-Chinese white voters so that he would become elected again in the next election. He thought that having a wife who owned a factory that hired Chinese workers would damage his reputation as a politician and make him lose his supporters. Dylan approached some workers who were having a dinner. He asked them to donate some money for the Irishmen who were being jobless right now. But turned out he lied to those workers because he used the money to buy some explosives. He planned to use the explosives to blow up the companies that hired Chinese workers. The owners of the companies that had the Chinese as their workers were angry and anxious when they found out about the incident. They urged the mayor of San Francisco to pay attention to the safety of their companies. They also urged him to find anyone who was responsible for the incident soon. Penelope realized that her husband was an anti-Chinese who always protected the Irishmen. So she asked Assam to ask Hop Wei Tong to help her to protect her company. Since Long Zi Tong was dealing in opium business too, Hop Wei Tong lost many customers and currently struggled financially. Because of that, Assam finally decided to accept Penelope's offer because he needed a lot of money to help Hop Wei Tong. The next day, the members of Hop Wei Tong began to work for Penelope to protect her company. Penelope's plan finally worked. The Irishmen who were trying to attack her company were intimidated by the members of Hop Wei Tong who guarded that place. After that, Assam and Young Jun met with Rosalita. Rosalita told them that she had found a good local supplier that sold good opium at good price. Assam, Young Jun, and Rosalita then went to the house of that local supplier together. That local supplier was named Happy Jack. Happy Jack was a local African-American drug trafficker. As soon as they arrived in that place, Sam began to negotiate with Happy Jack. After they negotiated for a while, they finally agreed to make a deal. Sam agreed to pay $250 per box of opium that Happy Jack sold. He decided to buy half dozen of opium by paying the half of the price first and paying the rest of it that night. At night, Sam and Young Jun returned to Happy Jack's house to get the opium that they ordered. But when they arrived in that place, Happy Jack told them that the opium that they ordered was not ready yet. They were disappointed when they found out about that. When they gave the upfront payment for the opium earlier, Happy Jack promised that the opium would be ready by the evening, but now he said that the opium was not ready yet. The disappointed Sam and Young Jun then asked Happy Jack to return the money that they had given to him, but Happy Jack refused to do that. Sam and Young Jun were mad because of that. They thought that Happy Jack had deceived them. They then decided to attack Happy Jack and his subordinates to teach them a lesson. But they immediately stopped their fight when Happy Jack took out his gun and aimed it at Young Jun's head. Happy Jack finally told Sam and Young Jun that he purposely hid the opium because the police often raided the drug houses lately. He informed them that the police had even raided 2 factories that were used in the illegal drug trade that day. He was afraid that the police would come to his place and raid that place too. So he asked Sam and Young Jun to do their business transaction in another place. The next day, the anti-Chinese senator Robert was delivering a speech in front of the workers in San Francisco. He talked about his plan about the issue that had becoming a problem in San Francisco for years, which was deporting the Chinese back to their country of origin. Just like Samuel, he did that to gain the sympathy of the anti-Chinese white voters because he sought to become president. Bill and other police officers who were also in that place didn't like the speech that Robert made. They thought that the speech that Robert made was so racist and might create a racial conflict between the communities in San Francisco. Scifi also heard the speech that was delivered by Robert. After she heard the speech, she went to the pub that was owned by Dylan. Scifi and Dylan had met each other at Byron's funeral before. Dylan was surprised when he found out that Scifi was Penelope's sister. When Byron was still alive, he used to have a good relationship with Dylan. But since Byron decided to hire the Chinese to work at his company, their relationship became strained. As the leader of the Irish labor union, Dylan loathed the Chinese so much because he thought that they had taken away the jobs that were meant for the Irish. At night, Richard tried to get some sleep, but he was unable to do that. He was under a lot of stress lately because of the problems that were caused by Feng Haitong. So he decided to go to the local pub and buy a glass of alcohol. In that pub, he met with the bartender who somehow reminded him of his ex-girlfriend. That bartender was named Abigail. Richard ordered a glass of alcohol from Abigail. Turned out, Abigail had been working with some bandits to rob Richard. She mixed Richard's drink with drug that would put Richard to sleep. Not far from that place, the members of Long Zi Tong were attacking the members of a small tong. Unlike big tongs like Long Zi Tong and Hop Wei Tong that consisted of great fighters, that small tong only consisted of ordinary men with mediocre fighting skills. Long Zi Tong attacked that tong because they had been selling opium behind their back. That tong knew that Hop Wei Tong was struggling lately and losing many customers because the opium that they sold were so expensive. So they took advantage of their business downfall to start their own opium business. Mei Ling and Lei Yang were angry when they found out that that small tong had been selling opium secretly. So they decided to go to that tong's headquarters and taught them a lesson. They warned them not to do that thing anymore. After they gave them a warning, Lei Yang planned to leave that place because he thought that he had settled the problems between them. But suddenly, Xing, the leader of Feng Haitong, attacked the leader of that small tong. Because of that, the fight between Feng Haitong and that small tong finally broke out. Lei Yang was surprised when he saw that. He immediately attacked the leader of Feng Haitong and warned him. It appeared that what Father Jun said about Feng Haitong was true. There was nothing good about them. Mei Ling was getting even more annoyed by Feng Haitong when they refused to give her the money that they earned from selling the opium. She and Lei Yang then went to Feng Haitong's headquarters to ask them to give them the opium money. But Xing refused to give her what she asked. He argued that the opium money belonged to his tong, because Feng Haitong had helped Long Zi Tong to attack the small tong that had been selling opium secretly. Mei Ling told him that she had never asked Feng Haitong to do that. She asked Xing again to give her the opium money that belonged to Long Zi Tong. She threatened that she would terminate the agreement between their tongs if Xing refused to do what she asked. Not long after Mei Ling and Lei Yong left that place, Bill arrived at Feng Haitong's headquarters. Bill went to that place to give the money that he collected from people who owed debts to Feng Haitong. Bill planned to quit his job as Feng Haitong's debt collectors because he was tired of collecting debts from his friends. He was embarrassed for working for the Chinese. Richard returned to the pub that he visited last night and trashed that place. He was angry because the people in that pub had robbed him. He thought that it was humiliating for a police officer to get robbed by those ordinary people. After a while, Ah Sam and Young Jun finally got the opium that they ordered from Happy Jack. Because of that, they could sell opium at lower price and compete with Long Zi Tong. With the opium money and the money that they earned from guarding Penelope's steel mill, they finally managed to recover from Hop Wee's financial setback. Apparently, Ah Sam and Young Jun had been buying opium from Happy Jack and selling it at lower price without the knowledge of Father Jun, even though what they were doing had helped Hop Wai Tong to recover from financial setback. They didn't tell Father Jun about it because they knew that Father Jun would disapprove of that they were doing. Father Jun refused to sell local opium because he thought that the quality was poorer than the quality of the opium that they imported from China. Hop Wai Tong's competitor, Long Zi Tong, thought that they could take advantage of the situation by selling local opium at lower price. They didn't care about the quality of the opium. All they cared about was that they could attract more customers with the low price that they offered. Their strategy finally worked. They managed to attract more customers because the opium that Hop Wai Tong sold was too expensive. Ah Sam and Young Jun noticed that it was the strategy that they used to attract more customers. They finally decided to find local opium and sell it at lower price so that they could compete with Long Zi Tong. The next day, some Chinese arrived at Hop Wai Tong's headquarters. Turned out, Father Jun had decided to add more members to Hop Wai Tong without the knowledge of Young Jun was surprised and mad when he found out about that. He was mad because his father always underestimated and doubted him and had never seen him as a person. A new member of Hop Wai Tong, Hong, approached Ah Sam and asked him to give him a cigarette. Even though he was a new member of Hop Wai Tong and he had just arrived in the United States, he knew about who Ah Sam was. He also knew that Ah Sam was defeated by Lai Yang in a battle back then. At first, Ah Sam and Young Jun thought that Hong was just a random guy. But after Hong defeated all members of Feng Haitong, they finally realized that he was a great fighter. Meanwhile, Bill was hanging out around his house and daydreaming all evening. While he and his family were enjoying the quiet evening together, some members of Feng Haitong suddenly came to that place and attacked them. A member of Feng Haitong took out his knife and put it around Bill's child's neck. Bill was shocked when he saw that. Fortunately, Richard came to that place after he returned from work. With the help of Richard, Bill and his family finally managed to attack the members of Feng Haitong back and even defeat all of them. Despite that, the tragedy was so traumatizing for Bill's wife and children. They couldn't believe that they had just murdered people. Bill worried about the safety of his wife and children because he was afraid that there would be another attack in that place. So, he decided to send his wife and children to another town that was located far away from San Francisco. After his wife and children left that place, Bill finally told Richard about everything. He revealed that Feng Haitong attacked him and his family because he decided to quit his job as their debt collector. Richard was angry when he heard that. Because of what Bill did, he needed to suffer from the attack that made him pass out for a few days. He attacked Bill because of that. The next day, Bill ordered his team to attack Feng Haitong, take revenge on them for what they did to him and his family. While he and his team were preparing themselves to attack Feng Haitong, Wang Chao suddenly came to that place. Wang Chao warned them to hold their attack because Feng Haitong had anticipated their revenge and prepared themselves to attack them as well. He was afraid that the situation was getting more difficult if Bill and other police officers decided to attack Feng Haitong now. He also added that the person whom Bill was looking for, Xing, had run away and was hiding somewhere else. Turned out, the reason why Wang Chao asked Bill not to attack Feng Haitong was because he needed to protect Ah Toy. Wang Chao knew that Bill and the police were looking for people who were responsible for the deaths of the Irishman that happened recently, which was Ah Toy. He pretended that Xing, the leader of Feng Haitong, was the one who was responsible for the deaths of those Irishmen. He asked Bill to give him 2 days to take care of everything. As the return, Bill promised that he would return all weapons that he seized from Wang Chao's gun shop. After Bill heard about that, he went to the mayor's office to talk to Russell, the chief of police. He told Russell that according to the information that Wang Chao gave them, it would be the best for them to hold their attack on Feng Haitong for a while and attack Feng Haitong 2 days later. Meanwhile, Mei Ling was visiting a laundry in Chinatown. The owner of the laundry asked Mei Ling to lend him $300 to extend his business. As a businesswoman, Mei Ling thought that it was an interesting offer. But instead of lending him $300, Mei Ling offered to give him $1,000, but she asked him to give the 40% of the revenue of his business to her every month. Lai Yang was confused when he heard that. He realized that Long Zitong was established to protect the Chinese from being discriminated by the Irish, but now he thought that what Mei Ling was doing was far from the reason why Long Zitong was established for the first time. Instead of protecting her own people, Mei Ling trapped them and used them for her own personal purpose. Mei Ling defended what she was doing by saying that she did this to survive because the government had applied the law that made the Chinese end up in difficult situation. She said that she was afraid that the police would find out about the illegal opium business that they ran. For that reason, she decided to launder the money that they earned from selling opium. She didn't care if she had to hurt her own people as long as her tongue and her business were safe. At Ah Toy's brothel, Ah Toy received a visit from an important guest. That important guest was named Nellie Davenport. Nellie was a wealthy widow who fought for women's rights and offered asylums for Chinese immigrants, especially prostitutes, whom she rescued from brothels. She owned a vineyard in Sonoma and hired those prostitutes to work at her vineyard. Nellie came to that place to ask some prostitutes who worked there to work at her vineyard. Even though Ah Toy was responsible for the well-beings of people who worked for her, she allowed her workers to choose what they wanted for their life. Nellie told her that she wanted to show her that those prostitutes could live a happy life. At night, the mayor of San Francisco, Samuel, urged Penelope to fire the Chinese who worked at her steel mill. He threatened that he would withdraw the contract for the railway project if Penelope didn't do what he asked her. But Penelope immediately refused to do that and threatened her husband back. She reminded him that any party who withdrew the contract for the railway project without the permission from another party, then they needed to pay for the forfeit. While Penelope was returning to her room, she ran into her sister Sophie. She was mad at Sophie because she rejected the man whom she introduced to her another day. Sophie was offended by what Penelope said to her. She finally decided to storm off and come to see Dylan. When Sophie arrived at Dylan's pub, she saw Dylan planning to blow up other companies that still hired the Chinese as their workers. At first, Dylan refused to blow up Penelope's steel mill because of his relationship with Sophie. Besides, Penelope's steel mill was guarded by the members of Hop Wai Tong. Dylan was afraid that the members of Hop Wai Tong would hurt the members of the Irish Labor Union if they insisted on attacking Penelope's steel mill. But since Sophie despised her sister and her brother-in-law, she kept asking Dylan to just blow up Penelope's steel mill. She even told Dylan about the secret passage to Penelope's steel mill so that Dylan and the members of the Irish Labor Union could get into the steel mill without getting caught by the members of Hop Wai Tong who guarded that place. After thinking for a while, Dylan finally agreed to blow up Penelope's steel mill. He quickly gathered the members of the Irish Labor Union and asked them to go to Penelope's steel mill by using the secret passage that Sophie showed them. When they got inside the steel mill, they began to plant the explosives that they carried in every corner of that place. But suddenly, the members of Hop Wei Tong came to that place and attacked them. Even though Dylan managed to defeat all of them, he still got injured in the hand. But after a while, he finally managed to blow up that place. Sophie was shocked when she saw the explosion. She suddenly regretted what she had just done. She felt guilty about what she was doing. The next day, Penelope found out that her steel mill had been destroyed. While she was visiting her steel mill, her assistant, Jacob, approached her and told her that he found opium in the steel mill's warehouse. Penelope was surprised when she heard that. She was disappointed when she realized that Assam only accepted her offer to work at her company because he needed money and he needed a place to store his opium. Assam felt guilty because of that. He went to Penelope's room and apologized to Penelope. But since Penelope was already disappointed at him, she decided to terminate their work contract and their relationship. She even told Assam to leave that place now. After Assam left that place, Samuel arrived in that place to see the situation there. He asked Penelope to explain everything to him. Because the steel mill had been destroyed, they needed to postpone the railway project now. She asked Penelope to just sell the steel mill and focus on being a good housewife. But Penelope immediately refused to do that because, after all, that steel mill was the only thing that was left by her family to her. She promised that she would finish what she was doing no matter what happened. She also asked Samuel to give her a month to finish renovating that steel mill. After a while, Atoy finally arrived at Nellie's vineyard in Sonoma. She was amazed by what she saw in that place. That place was very beautiful and there was no violence in it. When she arrived in that place, she saw many women working there. Nellie revealed that those women used to work as prostitutes at brothels. Atoy was getting more amazed when she heard that. She had never seen such thing in Chinatown before. Bill and other police officers finally decided to go to Feng Haitong's headquarters to attack that place. They also asked Wang Chao to go with them. The plan was that Wang Chao and his employees went inside Feng Haitong's headquarters first and gave Xing the thing that he ordered. Meanwhile, Bill and other police officers would wait outside until they received signal from Wang Chao. Bill and other police officers were waiting for Wang Chao to give them signal, but Wang Chao hadn't given any signals yet. They worried and became impatient because of that. Turned out, Wang Chao had been captured by Xing because he refused to work with them. Suddenly, a member of Feng Haitong came to that place and informed Xing that the members of Long Zi Tong had sneaked into that place. Turned out, one of the employees that Wang Chu brought with him to that place was Lai Yong. Lai Yong disguised himself as Wang Chu's employee so that he could sneak into Feng Haitong's headquarters and left a sword on the second floor. He wanted to make it look like Xing was the person who was responsible for the recent deaths of the Irishmen. Xing was surprised when his subordinate told him that the members of Feng Haitong had sneaked into that place. He immediately looked for them and ordered his other subordinates to keep torturing Wang Chao. While Wang Chao was getting tortured by the members of Feng Haitong, he suddenly took out his gun and fired it. Bill and other police officers thought that it was a sign from Wang Chao to get inside Feng Haitong's headquarters. They then began to break through that place and attack the members of Feng Haitong there. Xing and Li Yong finally met with each other. Even though they used to be business partners, they needed to fight each other to settle the differences between them right now. During the fight, Xing was struggling to fight Lai Yong, even though he had used a sword. Suddenly, Bill came to that place and interrupted their fight by aiming his gun at Xing. Lai Yong used that moment to run away from that place. Xing also tried to run away from that place, but Bill and other police officers managed to capture and arrest him first. After a while, Bill and other police officers finally managed to defeat most members of Feng Haitong. Despite that, many police officers died during that raid. They found the sword that Lai Yong left there and planned to use it as the evidence that Xing was the person who was responsible for the deaths of the Irishmen. They didn't know that Wang Chao was the one who framed Xing as the person who was responsible for the deaths of those Irishmen. At Atoy's brothel, Assam and Young Jun discussed about the opium that they lost because Penelope's steel mill got destroyed. They had no idea about what to do. They couldn't just buy more opium because they were afraid that Father Jun would find out about it. At night, Assam returned to Rosalita's fight club. Turned out, Mei Ling was also in that place. She went to that place to apologize to Assam for ordering Lai Yong to kill him in the battle between Long Zitong and Hop Wei Tong back then. But Assam was still disappointed at Mei Ling. He couldn't believe that Mei Ling betrayed him after he saved her when she almost got killed by Bolo back then. It was also because of him that Mei Ling could become the leader of Long Zitong. After Mei Ling left that place, Assam and Rosalita discussed about the fight club outside San Francisco that was recommended by Rosalita. Assam decided to accept Rosalita's offer because he needed to find more money to cover the loss that was caused by the explosion that happened at Penelope's steel mill. The next day, Rosalita took Assam, Youngjun, and Hong to a village that was located far away from San Francisco near the US-Mexico border. Rosalita took them to a Rooker's Mill, a border town that was owned by a well-known tycoon named Elijah Rooker. Elijah loved fighting tournaments so much. So he liked to host annual fighting tournaments where the cash prize was $2,500. Assam was interested in joining that fighting tournament because of the prize. In the fighting tournaments that were hosted by Elijah, the participants were not allowed to use any weapons. They were only allowed to fight barehanded. The participants who insisted on bringing any weapons would get executed by Elijah's subordinates right away. Not long after that, Elijah came to that place and greeted all participants who gathered there. Since Elijah was a tycoon, he owned the whole land and all businesses in that place. It was rumored that the police in that area were also working for him. While Elijah was greeting the participants in that place, he took out his knife and showed it to the audience. During the greeting, Rosalita couldn't stop looking at Elijah. It seemed that she knew Elijah well. After Elijah finished greeting the audience, the fighting tournament finally began. One of the participants was Dylan. Assam paid attention to the way Dylan fought. He noticed that Dylan had great endurance and great fighting skills. He carefully paid attention to every move that Dylan made. After a while, Dylan finally managed to defeat his opponent in that battle. Before Assam participated in the fighting tournament, he carefully studied the techniques that were used by all participants who fought in the fighting tournament. He recognized that some of those techniques were Taekwondo and Capoeira. Because of that, he finally managed to defeat all his opponents easily. Elijah was amazed when he saw Assam's fighting skills. He even sent his man to invite Assam to have a lunch with him. Some men who attended that fighting tournament were jealous of Assam. They didn't like him because he managed to defeat all his opponents. After the battles were over, they tried to attack Assam, but Hong managed to stop them and defeat all of them. The next day, Assam and Rosalita went to Elijah's house and had a lunch with Elijah. Elijah admitted that he was amazed by Assam's fighting skills. He asked Assam to teach his bodyguard about how to fight. Elijah's bodyguard argued that firearms were more effective in attacking their enemies rather than fighting them barehanded. Assam also refused to teach Elijah's bodyguard about how to fight. He said that he was not interested in becoming a fighting coach. During the lunch, Rosalita suddenly praised Elijah's gun. Elijah allowed Rosalita to take a look at his gun, but for safety reason, he asked his subordinate to empty the gun first before he lent it to Rosalita. While Rosalita was taking a look at Elijah's gun, she said that it seemed that she had seen that gun before. She said that that gun reminded her of the gun that belonged to the American man who forced her and her family to sell their land. Even though her father had refused to sell his land, that American man and his men kept forcing him to sell the land. They forced Rosalita's father to his knees at gunpoint and made him sign the deed of sale before killing him in front of Rosalita and her sister. Elijah was surprised when he heard that story. He realized that Rosalita's family was one of the families whose land he stole back then. Assam also realized that Rosalita came to that place to take revenge on Elijah for the death of his father. Turned out, Rosalita had prepared a bullet that she stored inside her necklace. So even though Elijah's bodyguard had emptied the gun, Rosalita still managed to shoot Elijah in the head with that gun. Elijah died instantly because of that. While Assam and his group were trying to run away from that place, Elijah's bodyguard ordered everybody there to stop them. The citizens of Rooker's Mill were shocked and angry when they found out that Assam and his group had killed Elijah. They began to attack Assam and his group. Assam and his group were struggling to fight them back because the citizens of Rooker's Mill were using firearms to attack them. But suddenly, Elijah's wife, Marisol, who was also Rosalita's sister, ordered the citizens of Rooker's Mill to stop attacking Assam and his group. She ordered the police officers to capture them and take them to the police station. She also ordered them to take them to the court so that they would be guillotined. While Assam and his group were heading to the police station, Assam berated Rosalita for attacking Elijah without discussing it with him first. Because of that, Assam, Youngjun, and Hong, who didn't know anything about that attack, needed to face the consequence of what Rosalita did to Elijah. Rosalita was only smiling when she heard that. Turned out she had paid the police officers who were supposed to take them to the court. It was revealed that Rosalita was working with Rooker's wife, Marisol, to take revenge on Elijah for the death of their father. They were so happy that the plan that they had been planning for years turned out to be well. Assam and his group were surprised when they found out about that. Before Assam, Youngjun, and Hong left that place, Marisol gave them some money as the reward for helping them to kill Elijah. Everybody was happy until Elijah's bodyguard came to that place and shot Rosalita in the head. Unfortunately, Rosalita died instantly because of that. Everybody in that place was shocked and saddened by her death. Youngjun attacked Elijah's bodyguard and managed to kill him. After that, Assam, Youngjun, and Hong returned to Hop Wai Tong. When they arrived in that place, they saw Father Jun already waiting for them there. Father Jun was furious when he found out that Youngjun had been selling local opium behind his back. He thought that what Youngjun was doing had betrayed him. Youngjun defended what he was doing by saying that he did this to save Hop Wai Tong. He argued that Hop Wai Tong would lose its power and influence in less than 1 year if they kept selling the expensive opium that they imported from China. Because of that, he and Assam decided to do something to help Hop Wai Tong to recover from financial setback. But Father Jun refused to accept his answer. He said that he didn't need any help from Youngjun and Assam because he knew about how to manage his business and his tong. He then grabbed his hot blade and used it to punish Youngjun. He also ordered his subordinates to kill Assam. He thought that Assam had become bad influence for his son Youngjun, but Father Jun's subordinates refused to do what Father Jun ordered them. They decided to support Assam and Youngjun because they thought that they had better plans for Hop Wai Tong. Father Jun was getting even more furious when he saw that, but he couldn't do anything about it. He finally decided to leave his position as the leader of Hop Wai Tong. Now that Father Jun had left Hop Wai Tong, Youngjun had officially become the leader of Hop Wai Tong. After that, Assam went to Wang Chio's gun shop to buy some firearms. He needed those firearms because he was afraid that the war between the Tongs would break out soon. Wang Chao revealed that he heard that Youngjun had become the leader of Hop Wai Tong. But even though Youngjun was the leader of Hop Wai Tong, Wang Chao realized that Assam was the mastermind who created every plan and strategy for Hop Wai Tong. Despite Assam was only Youngjun's right-hand man, he could affect every decision that was made for Hop Wai Tong easily. At the court, Bill gave his testimony about the crime that was committed by Zing. He swore that he witnessed Zing murdering the Irishman. Because of the testimony that Bill gave and all the evidence that were provided, the judge finally decided to sentence Zing to death. After that, the mayor of San Francisco delivered a speech in front of the public and the media. During that speech, he praised Bill and the police of San Francisco for doing their job well. But in the afternoon, Bill and other police officers saw other Irishmen lying dead on the ground. They were confused when they saw that because they thought that they had captured the person who was responsible for the murders of the Irishmen. Turned out, Atoy was the one who murdered those Irishmen. She was furious when Nellie told her that some Chinese women were being held enslaved in that place. She came to that place to save those Chinese women and take them to Nellie's vineyard. Not only that, she also took back her land certificate that was under the name of her business partner, an Irishman named Leonard Patterson. She couldn't create a land certificate under her own name because she didn't have identity card, and hence couldn't buy private property. She planned to use that land to create her own place, like the one that was owned by Nellie. But the problem was, Ah Toy's business partner, Leonard, had pawned her land certificate without her permission. When Ah Toy asked him to give her land certificate back, Leonard didn't know about what he needed to do. He even asked his friend to help him to get Ah Toy's land certificate back. At night, Samuel returned home drunk. He kept forcing Penelope to sell her steel mill. Penelope was sick of hearing that. She finally asked Samuel to just divorce her. Samuel was angry when he heard that and began to abuse Penelope. But fortunately, Sophie immediately helped her sister to fight Samuel back. Penelope's assistant, Jacob, also helped Penelope to fight Samuel back by striking him in the head. Samuel died instantly because of that. Walter and Russell rushed to Samuel's house as soon as they heard that Samuel had been murdered. They were surprised when they saw Samuel's dead body on the floor. They began to investigate Samuel's death by interrogating Penelope. While Penelope was being interrogated, she admitted that she didn't remember about what happened because she almost died back then. She purposely lied to the police so that her assistant Jacob, the person who was responsible for Samuel's death, wouldn't get dragged into this problem. But surprisingly, Sophie suddenly told the police that Jacob was the one who murdered Samuel. Walter and Russell were surprised when they heard that. Russell immediately ordered his subordinates to block all roads in town, search every corner in Chinatown, and set curfews until they managed to find and capture Jacob. It was important for the police to find and capture Jacob because he had murdered the most important person in their town, the mayor of San Francisco. Since Samuel died, Walter, the deputy mayor of San Francisco, was appointed to become the next mayor of San Francisco. In another place, Young Jun, Ah Sam, and Hong were having dinner together. Young Jun worried when he found out that Feng Haitong had lost their leader. He was afraid that Feng Haitong would join Long Zitong. To prevent such thing from happening, Young Jun asked Ah Sam and Hong to kill the remaining members of Feng Haitong. Long Zitong worried when they found out about Young Jun's plan to kill the remaining members of Feng Haitong. Even though it didn't violate their agreement, they were afraid about what would happen. Bill and other police officers went to Chinatown and interrogated everybody there. They were struggling to gain any information from them because most people in Chinatown didn't understand English. They also went to Ah Toy's brothel to look for Jacob and announced that they would set curfew soon. Ah Toy was disappointed when she heard that. It meant that she couldn't open her brothel at night until the police found Jacob. When Bill visited that place, he ran into Ah Sam. He asked Ah Sam to help the police to find Jacob. Ah Sam knew Jacob very well, so there was no way that he would tell Bill about Jacob. Turned out, Jacob was hiding in a room right now. Nobody knew that he was hiding there, including Ah Sam himself. At night, Walter went to Chinatown to meet with Mei Ling. He asked Mei Ling to help him to find Jacob. Mei Ling immediately agreed to do what Walter asked him. But in exchange for that, she asked Walter to help her to destroy Long Zitong's biggest competitor, Hop Wei Tong. Walter agreed to make a deal with her. While Ah Toy was drinking at her brothel, she suddenly received an unexpected visit from Nellie. Nellie asked Ah Toy to stay at her place for a while until the situation in Chinatown got better. While Ah Toy and Nellie were having a conversation, two police officers suddenly came to that place and interrupted them. Turned out, those police officers were not real police officers. They were hitmen who were paid by Leonard, Ah Toy's business partner, to kill Ah Toy. Leonard wanted them to kill Ah Toy so that he could steal Ah Toy's land certificate. Ah Toy was struggling to fight those hitmen back because those hitmen were stronger than her. Those hitmen also attacked her by using weapons. Meanwhile, Ah Toy only fought them barehanded. Ah Toy was bloody and beaten because of that. But fortunately, she managed to survive and run away from those men. She went to her room, but those hitmen chased her right away. In her room, Ah Toy grabbed her sword and began to attack those hitmen with it. After a while, she finally managed to defeat those hitmen. Once Ah Toy found out that Leonard was the person who sent those hitmen to kill her, she rushed to Leonard's house. Leonard was surprised when he saw Ah Toy sitting in his dining room bloody and beaten. Ah Toy forced him to sign the paper to end their partnership. She also warned him to leave that town immediately. She threatened that she would kill him and his family if he didn't do what she asked him. At night, while Wang Chao was heading to his warehouse, Bill suddenly showed up in that place and stopped him. Bill asked Wang Chao to help him to find Jacob. He promised that he would give him some money if he managed to help him to find Jacob. When Wang Chao arrived at his warehouse, he found out that someone had broken into that place. Turned out, Jacob was the one who sneaked into that place. He asked Wang Chao to help him to run away and avoid the punishment that he was going to receive for murdering the mayor of San Francisco. But Wang Chao said that Jacob couldn't hide as long as he was still in the United States. He said that the only way that he could do to flee from that country was by smuggling himself into China in a coffin. But instead of sending Jacob to China, Wang Chu brought him to Mainling. While the carriage that carried Jacob's coffin was heading to a place, the police suddenly showed up in that place and stopped them. Bill and his team finally managed to find and capture Jacob. They planned to take Jacob to the court so that he could receive his punishment. While the police officers were taking Jacob to the court, some Irishmen suddenly stopped them and asked them to give Jacob to them. They were angry at Jacob for murdering the mayor of San Francisco, the politician who cared the most about them, the Irish workers, even though it was only a political gimmick. So, before Jacob received punishment from the court, they wanted to punish him by themselves. Those Irish workers were angry when Bill and other police officers refused to give Jacob to them. They began to attack those police officers and riot in that place. It seemed that they couldn't hide their anger and hatred toward the Chinese anymore. Not only attacking Bill and other police officers, they also began to attack Chinatown and all Chinese who lived there. Those Irish workers continued to rage that the racial war between the Irish and the Chinese finally broke out. Bill and other police officers tried to stop them, but they failed to do that because they were outnumbered by the angry crowd. The Irish workers were still attacking Chinatown and all Chinese who lived there. They brutally attacked every Chinese they saw. They didn't care if they were old or young, a member of a Tong or just an ordinary citizen. Mei Ling and Wang Chao were shocked when they saw what happened there. They quickly ran away from that place before the situation there was getting any wilder. Because of that war, for the first time in San Francisco, all Tongs in Chinatown, including Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong that were supposed to be nemesis, decided to work together to fight the Irish and defend themselves. Mei Ling and Wang Chao were still trying to find a place to run away from the chaos that happened in Chinatown. After a while, they finally decided to go to Ah Toi's brothel and hide there. They were surprised when they found out that Ah Toi was lying weak on her bed with wounds all over her body. Mei Ling immediately tried to help to treat Ah Toi's wounds with all medicines that she could find there. While Mei Ling was treating Ah Toi's wounds, Wang Chao and Ah Toi's subordinate guarded that place and stopped the Irish who wanted to break into that place. Meanwhile, the Irish and the Chinese were still attacking each other. When some Irishmen were trying to kill a Chinese with a weapon, Assam suddenly showed up in that place and stole the weapon. Assam used the weapon to attack those Irishmen. Even though he was only alone, he finally managed to defeat all of them. Everybody in that place was amazed when they saw that. Meanwhile, young Jun was fighting some Irishmen. He was struggling to fight them back because he was outnumbered by them. When he almost got killed by those Irishmen, surprisingly, Father Jun suddenly showed up in that place and helped him. For the first time in his life, young Jun finally heard that his father was proud of him. Not long after that, some police officers finally arrived in that place to control the situation there. Nobody won in that war. Instead, many people got injured and died in that war. At night, Assam, Young Jun, and Hong returned to the place where the Irish workers stayed. They came to that place to ask the Irish to give Jacob's dead body to them. While they were leaving that place, they ran into Dylan. Assam gave him the stink eye. He thought that Dylan was the person who was responsible for the racial war that happened that day. The next day, Mei Ling saw Assam's picture on the wall in Chinatown. The Chinese were the ones who painted his picture on the wall because of what he did another day. They saw Assam as a hero and a symbol for the Chinese community because he had helped them to fight the Irish during the war another day. Sam was surprised when he saw his picture on the wall. He couldn't believe that he got famous in San Francisco now. He only came to that place because he wanted to find his missing sister, Mei Ling. Toy told Sam that he had become a hope for the Chinese community. Sam worried about Toy because of the wounds that she got in her face. He was surprised when Toy told him that Mei Ling was the one who helped her to treat her wounds. Because of the war between the Irish and the Chinese that happened another day, Hop Wei Tong and Long Zitong's relationship got better. One evening, Young Jun and Mei Ling were having a meeting. Mei Ling came to that meeting to congratulate Young Jun for becoming the next leader of Hop Wei Tong. But since she was still angry at Young Jun for what he said to her last time, she finally revealed to him that Sam was her own brother. Young Jun was angry and surprised when he heard that. Sam being Mei Ling's brother was the least thing that he could expect from Sam, his loyal right-hand man. All this time, Sam had never betrayed him. He even remembered that Sam was willing to die for him when he fought in a war between Hop Wei Tong and Long Zitong back then. But now that Young Jun had found out that Sam was Mei Ling's brother, he didn't know if Sam would choose Long Zitong or Hop Wei Tong. He was disappointed at Sam for lying to him all this time. He asked Sam to give him some time to think about what he was going to do with him. Sam didn't know about what he was going to do. He finally decided to go to Dylan's pub to talk to Dylan. He warned Dylan and other Irish workers in that place not to mess with the Chinese anymore. He reminded them that the Irish and the Chinese were both immigrants in the United States, so they had the same rights to find better lives for them. Dylan didn't like what Sam said to him. He asked Sam to help him to settle the differences between them by having a fight. Sam was struggling to defeat Dylan because Dylan was too strong. He couldn't even fight Dylan back when Dylan began to beat him up. Sam realized that he could never defeat Dylan because he was stronger than him, but he noticed that he was faster than Dylan. So he decided to use his speed and agility to target Dylan's weak points. After a while, his strategy finally worked. He finally managed to defeat Dylan. After he defeated Dylan, he asked everybody there to stay away from Chinatown and stop messing with the Chinese. He threatened that he and his Tong would return to that place if they kept messing with the Chinese. Richard went to the police station to talk to Bill. He told Bill that he wanted to quit his job as a police officer. After everything that happened in San Francisco, Richard thought that the police had lost their idealism and were only used as a pawn by the politicians. He thought that what the police were doing right now was far from what they were supposed to do, which was protecting the people. Bill was surprised when Richard told him that he wanted to quit his job. He asked Richard not to quit his job because Richard was the only honest police officer whom he knew. He thought that Richard was a good role model for other police officers. But Richard didn't care about that. He insisted on quitting his job as a police officer. Penelope was mad when she realized that Walter had villainized Jacob, the person who had protected her from Samuel, for her own advantage. She planned to go to the local media to tell them about what actually happened and what Walter had done. But unfortunately, what she was doing was useless because the media had worked with Walter. So instead of publishing what she said to them, they reported everything that she said about Walter to Walter himself. Penelope realized that it was because of Walter that the media didn't publish the article about him. She then went to Walter's office and berated him. She even slapped Walter's face to express her anger at him. Walter was furious because of that, but instead of attacking Penelope back, he hurt himself by using a scissor. Turned out, he did that to make it look like Penelope was the one who hurt him with the scissor. He wanted the public to think that Penelope suffered from mental illness after she lost her husband. He wanted the public to think that Penelope was crazy and belonged to the mental hospital. At night, Walter was meeting with Mei Ling. Mei Ling was happy that she could divide Hop Wei Tong by pitting Young Jun and Sam against each other. During her meeting with Walter, she asked Walter to keep his promise to help her to destroy Hop Wei Tong with the help of the government. The next day, Walter gathered some high-ranking police officers in a room. He ordered those police officers to get rid of the illegal businesses that were associated with Hop Wei Tong by applying the law that didn't make sense at all. He did that in order to keep his promise to Mei Ling to destroy Hop Wei Tong. While Walter and those police officers were having a meeting, Dylan suddenly showed up in that place. After Dylan was defeated by Ah Sam in the last battle back then, he finally made his first appearance in public. Dylan came to that place to give his support to Walter. As the leader of the Irish Labour Union, he claimed that he had the same goal as everyone in that room, which was forcing the Chinese to leave San Francisco. In Chinatown, people began to repair their places after the war between the Irish and the Chinese broke out in that place another day. While Ah Sam was having a drink at a small restaurant, he called a young boy and ordered him to tell Young Jun that now was the time. Turned out, Ah Sam and Young Jun had been planning to capture the members of Long Zi Tong. They were mad when they found out that Long Zi Tong was doing their business in their territory, which meant that they had violated their agreement. At first, they tried to warn them with words, but since the members of Long Zi Tong refused to listen to them, Ah Sam and Young Jun finally decided to attack them by using violence. Because of the war between the Irish and the Chinese that broke out another day, the new mayor of San Francisco, Walter, sent more police officers to watch over Chinatown. Because of that, the Chinese who ran businesses in Chinatown couldn't run their business as usual. As the consequences, they were struggling financially. Ah Sam and Young Jun went to a copy and print shop to collect some money, but the owner of the copy and print shop told them that he couldn't give them money like usual because the police had shut down his business. He protested to Young Jun that he didn't feel safe since Young Jun became the leader of Hop Wei Tong. He thought that Young Jun couldn't protect him and his business, like how the previous leader of Hop Wei Tong, Father Jun, protected him back then. Young Jun was angry when he heard that. He began to abuse the owner of that copy and print shop, but Ah Sam stopped him right away. While Hop Wei Tong was struggling financially and having internal conflict, Long Zi Tong continued to expand their business by working together with Kong Pak, the leader of Zhang Yo Tong. Kong was also a skilled fighter who fought alongside Lai Yang in the past. To expand her business, Mei Ling also asked Wang Cheo to bring some noble Irish women to her. She asked Wang Cheo to introduce her as the most successful woman in Chinatown to those Irish women. She planned to approach those noble Irish women for business reason. While Mei Ling and those noble Irish women were having some tea together, Mei Ling told them about her business, but she didn't tell them about Long Zi Tong. She wanted them to know her as a successful businesswoman and not a leader of a violent gang like Long Zi Tong. After those noble Irish women left that place, Mei Ling explained to the confused Lai Yang about the reason why she invited those noble Irish women to have some tea with her. Mei Ling explained that she did that because she wanted to expand her business. Since the police shut down the businesses in Chinatown, she needed to find another way to run her business. She thought that working with those noble Irish women was the best thing that she could do to save their business right now. In another place, Dylan and some congressmen were discussing about the Irish who were struggling to find jobs. Dylan said that he had tried everything to help the Irish to find jobs, including trying to convince the local businessmen to give jobs to the Irish. He was angry and disappointed because what he did hadn't shown any results so far. In frustration, he admitted that there was nothing that he could do right now except waiting for the government to make decision. At the mayor's office, Walter called Bill to his room. When Bill arrived there, Walter introduced him to a man named Benjamin Atwood. Walter said that Benjamin was the newly appointed chief of the San Francisco Police. On his first day of becoming the chief of the San Francisco Police, Benjamin proved that he managed to handle the Chinese very well. On the order of Walter, Benjamin and his team went to the residence of the Chinese and raided that place. Bill worried when they did that. He was afraid that the raid would create another war between the local community and the Chinese community. After that, Bill came to see Richard. He told Richard about what Benjamin and his team did earlier. He still regretted that Richard had left the police. He hoped that he could return to the force. Meanwhile, Ah Sam and Ah Toy were discussing about Ah Toy's business. Ah Toy told Ah Sam that she planned to go to Nellie's vineyard to talk to Nellie. While she was gone, she planned to ask Wang Cheo to take care of her business. While Wang Chao was enjoying spending his time at Ah Toy's brothel, Young Jun suddenly approached him and showed him the axe that he sold to Long Zi Tong. Young Jun was disappointed and felt betrayed because Wang Chao sold his weapon to Long Zi Tong. But Wang Chao reminded him that he was a businessman and he had been selling his weapons to everyone, no matter who they were or which town they came from. He made it clear to Young Jun that business was business and he would never pick anyone's side. Sam felt guilty about what Young Jun did to Wang Chao. After Young Jun left that place, Sam told Wang Chao that Young Jun had been becoming unstable lately because of the financial struggle that Hop Wei Tong faced. He explained that Hop Wei Tong was struggling because he couldn't compete against Long Zi Tong. To worsen the situation, the police shut down the businesses in Chinatown. Because of that, it became more difficult for Hop Wei Tong to earn some money. When Wang Chao heard that, he suddenly remembered about a gang of bandits who kept a lot of money. He suggested Hop Wei Tong to rob those bandits. He said that he was once held at gunpoint by those bandits when he brought them the guns that they ordered. Even though it was not a good suggestion, he thought that Hop Wei Tong could recover from financial setback by robbing those bandits. After a while, Sam and Young Jun finally agreed to rob those bandits. At night, Wang Chao, Sam, Young Jun, and other members of Hop Wei Tong went to the place of those bandits to rob them. With their great fighting skills, Sam and the members of Hop Wei Tong managed to defeat all bandits in that place. After they defeated those bandits, they searched that place to find the money that Wang Chao was talking about. But instead of finding the money, they found an old photocopier that was used to create counterfeit money. The next scene introduced two Secret Service agents who were tasked to protect the president. Before they were tasked to become the president's bodyguards, they were tasked by the United States Department of the Treasury to investigate the counterfeit money that were often found in the market. That afternoon, those two Secret Service agents were investigating the counterfeit money that had been often found in the market lately. Suddenly, a carriage showed up in that place. Those Secret Service agents stopped them right away. While a Secret Service agent was checking the back of the carriage, one of those men who drove the carriage suddenly shot him in the chest. The remaining Secret Service agent immediately attacked those men back by shooting them. After that, he checked the carriage and found a chest that contained counterfeit money inside. He ordered one of those men to take him to the place where they produced the counterfeit money. After a while, that Secret Service agent and that man finally arrived at a warehouse. Turned out, that man belonged to the gang of the bandits who were attacked by Sam and Hop Wei Tong earlier. But when they arrived in that place, the photocopier that was used to create the counterfeit money was already gone. At Hop Wei Tong's headquarters, Sam, Young Jun, and Wang Chao were checking the photocopier that they stole from the bandits' place. They were trying to produce counterfeit money by using that machine, but they failed to do that. They had no idea about what they did wrong, because the money that they produced always failed to look like real money. Sam began to get frustrated and finally decided to find someone who knew about how to use that machine. He went to the copy and print shop and asked the owner to help him to use the photocopier that he stole from the bandits' place. But unfortunately, the owner of that shop told him that he couldn't help him to do that. While Sam was leaving that place, the daughter of the copy and print shop's owner, Yan Men, suddenly approached him and told him that she could help him to use the photocopier. When Yan Mai checked the photocopier that Sam and Hop Wei Tong stole from the bandits' place, she immediately found out that they were trying to make counterfeit money. She showed him that the problem was not on the machine, but on Sam and the others who didn't know about how to use the machine. Yan Mei said that she would help Sam and the others to make counterfeit money by using that machine. But in exchange for that, she wanted them to free his father from paying taxes to Hop Wei Tong. Sam and the others agreed to do that. After Yan Men and Hop Wei Tong made a deal, Yan Mai began to help Hop Wei Tong to make counterfeit money. Sam and Young Jun were amazed by the counterfeit money that Yan Mi created because it reached a similarity of 96%. Walter was mad and anxious when he found out that the young people liked his political opponent better. He understood that his political opponent was younger than him and was better than him at attracting and persuading people. After that, in front of the media, Walter appreciated the new chief of police and his team who managed to raid Chinatown. He did that to convince the public that he was an anti-Chinese politician. In the speech that Walter made during the political campaign, Walter promised that he would force the Chinese to leave San Francisco so that the Irish could find jobs more easily and the crime rate in that town could get decreased. Unlike Walter, his political opponent believed that every American citizen deserved to get the same right, including the right to access the best education for their children. He knew that his political opponent, Walter, didn't have family. So he tried to attack Walter by prioritizing the family issue. It appeared that the public liked Walter's political opponent better because he was better in almost every aspect of his life, especially family. While Walter was having no idea about what he was going to do, he suddenly bumped into a woman named Catherine Archer. Catherine was a political booster who took an interest in Walter. She gave Walter her card and offered to help his cause in whatever way she could. Meanwhile, Mei Ling and Kong were having a meeting. In that meeting, they discussed about the internal conflicts that happened within Hop Wai Tong. Kong warned Mei Ling to be more careful because Hop Wai Tong was now led by a short-tempered man like Young Jun. He asked her to just wait and be patient. He believed that Hop Wai Tong would get destroyed sooner or later because they had a leader like Young Jun. Mei Ling smiled and agreed with him. Mei Ling then decided to focus on strengthening her Tong and continue to work with Kong's Tong, Zhang Yao Tong. But even though Zhang Yao Tong and Long Zi Tong had worked together, the members of Zhang Yao Tong were not hesitant to attack the members of Long Zi Tong when they didn't reach agreement. At the steel factory, a businessman named Lyman Merriweather met with Dylan. Lyman protested to Dylan because some Irish workers didn't do their job well and caused some problems by refusing to work with the Chinese workers instead. He was mad at those Irish workers because what they did had made him suffer a loss. Dylan felt guilty and embarrassed when he heard that. He promised Lyman that he would take care of those Irish workers. Even though he had always fought for the Irish workers, he was not hesitant to berate the Irish workers who had caused problems in that place. He even decided to punish them by firing them in front of everybody there. He told those Irish workers that they had embarrassed him. He called them ungrateful because thousands of Irish workers wished that they had their jobs, but they wasted it instead. At Nellie's vineyard, Nellie received a visit from a man named Douglas Strickland. Douglas was a baron and a businessman. He was also an old friend of Nellie's husband. He came to that place to buy Nellie's vineyard. He explained that the federal government wished to build a railroad up the coast of California, and the survey identified her valley as being the ideal route. But Nellie immediately refused to sell her land. She explained that the vineyard was left by her late husband. Besides, it had also become the safe place for the prostitutes whom she had rescued from the brothels. Edmund Mosley, the Secret Service agent who investigated the counterfeit money another day, went to the police station to continue his investigation. He asked the chief of police, Benjamin, to give him information about the Tongs in Chinatown and give him all documents about everyone who had worked in the police. After he checked those documents, he was interested in a police officer named Richard. He planned to recruit him as his new partner. In the evening, Edmund came to see Richard and asked him to become his partner. He asked him to help him to investigate the counterfeit money that was often found in the market. He suspected that the counterfeit money came from Chinatown. He promised that he would free him from any charges against him, especially the murder charge that involved his name in the past. After thinking for a while, Richard finally agreed to become Edmund's partner. Edmund then took Richard to the police station and introduced him to Benjamin and other police officers as his new partner. In that meeting, Edmund and Richard suspected that the counterfeit money that they often found in the market probably came from Chinatown. To prove that the money was fake or real, all they needed to do was pouring chemical liquid all over the money. After that, Richard came to see Wang Chao to interrogate him. He thought that Wang Chao might know something about the counterfeit money that was found in the market because he was a businessman who was dealing with everyone. Richard offered Wang Chao a great amount of money if he wanted to give him any valuable information about the counterfeit money that was found in Chinatown. He also promised that Wang Chao wouldn't get involved in that problem. But as one of the people who was responsible for the counterfeit money, Wang Chao immediately rejected Richard's offer. The next day, Sam, Young Jun, and other members of Hop Wei Tong went to a drug trafficker's house. They tried to buy some opium from that drug trafficker by using the counterfeit money that they produced. That drug trafficker ordered his subordinates to check the money that Assam gave to him. His subordinates checked the money, but he didn't realize that it was counterfeit money. Assam and the members of Hop Wei Tong were glad when they realized that they managed to create good counterfeit money. After Hop Wei Tong managed to trick that drug trafficker with their counterfeit money, Young Jun began to give the money to everyone in Chinatown for free. Young Jun knew how hard it was to suffer from financial setback because the government and the police decided to shut down the businesses in that place. So, he wanted those people to use the money to help them to recover from financial setback. Assam didn't like what Young Jun was doing. He approached Young Jun and confronted him about what he did. He made it clear that the main reason they created the counterfeit money was to help Hop Wei Tong to recover from financial setback so that they could compete against their rival, Long Zitong, again. But instead of using the counterfeit money like how they planned to do, Young Jun was giving those money away for free. Assam thought that what Young Jun was doing was careless and dangerous because it would only make the police find and arrest them soon. Mei Ling went to an art gallery that was usually only visited by the elite. It appeared that she had been spending so much time with San Francisco elite lately. Walter was also seen in that place. Mei Ling easily became the center of attention in that art gallery because she was the only Chinese who visited that place. Mei Ling's friend, a noble Irish woman named Eliza Pendleton, introduced her to her husband. Meanwhile, Dylan and Douglas were having a meeting together. Dylan decided to meet Douglas after a businessman ordered him to threaten his competitor, Douglas. As a successful businessman who had many competitors, Douglas was aware of the threats that he could receive at any time, including the threat that he had just received from Dylan. For that reason, he had prepared everything to protect himself. He hired some bodyguards to protect him from anyone who wanted to harm him. Before he left that place, he made it clear to Dylan that he was not afraid of his threat at all. At the vineyard, Ah Toy and Nellie were enjoying some time together. But suddenly, some men came to that place and began to burn down Nellie's vineyard. Turned out, those men were sent by Douglas. Since Nellie refused to sell her land, Douglas thought that destroying her vineyard was the only thing that he could do to execute the government's plan to build a railroad up the coast of California. Ah Toy and Nellie were shocked and panicked when they saw that place catching fire. Nellie used her firearm to attack Douglas's men. Meanwhile, Ah Toy attacked them by using her sword. But Ah Toy and Nellie were struggling to fight those men because they were great at fighting, and there were too many of them. But after a while, those men finally left that place after the fire in that place began to get bigger. The next morning, the fire was finally gone, and so was everything in that vineyard. The house, the beautiful vineyard, and everything that Nellie owned in that place were gone with the fire. Some of Nellie's girls also died in that fire. Ah Toy was heartbroken and discouraged because of the incident that happened in that place. Just when she thought that women could live happily ever after, she saw everything getting destroyed in front of her. In the evening, Ah Toy returned to Chinatown. Even though she had just witnessed the painful tragedy at Nellie's vineyard, she kept putting on her makeup and greeting all customers who visited her brothel like nothing ever happened. Bill informed Ah Toy that San Francisco Police Department had a new chief of police named Benjamin. He said that they couldn't bribe the police now because Benjamin was a very strict police officer. He also said that Benjamin would treat everyone equally, no matter what race they were. Because of that, Bill warned Ah Toy that he might not be able to protect her and her brothel anymore. Meanwhile, Edmund and Richard were discussing about their plan to find people who were responsible for producing the counterfeit money. At night, while Richard was spending some time at Ah Toy's brothel, he realized that a customer was using counterfeit money to pay. That customer got the counterfeit money from Young Jun when he gave those money away another day. Richard and Edmund realized that they could trace the counterfeit money that they found at Ah Toy's brothel. After they investigated the money, they finally realized that the counterfeit money was mostly used in Hop Wei Tong's territory. Because of that, in the evening, Edmund, Richard, Bill and other police officers went to Hop Wai Tong to raid that place. They managed to capture Young Jun and the members of Hop Wai Tong easily because they were unarmed and they were in the middle of spending some time together when they arrived there. They searched that place to find the photocopier that was used to produce counterfeit money, but they didn't find the machine anywhere. Benjamin was frustrated because of that. He finally began to beat Young Jun up. He also threatened that he would deport him back to China. Turned out, the photocopier had been moved by Assam and Yan Mai by using a carriage. They were struggling to move that machine because it was raining hard outside, and there were many police officers who patrolled the area. Assam was thinking about a strategy that they would use to hide from the police. While those police officers were about to check their carriage, Assam suddenly came out of his hiding place and attacked them. Fortunately, those police officers were not familiar with Chinatown and Assam. So, when Bill and Richard interrogated them about the person who attacked them, those police officers only told them that they had just been attacked by a woman and a man who carried something suspicious in their carriage. Meanwhile, Mei Ling was still trying to expand her business outside Chinatown. That afternoon, she was having some tea with Eliza and her husband, a banker named Bernard Pendleton. Mei Ling went to the Pendleton residence to ask Eliza and Bernard to work together with her by investing their money in her business. Bernard was tempted when he saw the money that Mei Ling showed him. He immediately agreed to invest the money in his clients' companies, such as construction companies and agriculture companies. In the evening, Mei Ling, Eliza, and Bernard were spending some time together by playing billiard. While Eliza left that place to go to the restroom, Bernard slowly approached Mei Ling and tried to kiss her. Even though Mei Ling had rejected his sexual advance, and it was Bernard who teased her, Eliza was still mad at Mei Ling. Eliza thought that Mei Ling had solicited her husband for sex and even had her arrested for it. After Long Zitong heard that Mei Ling was arrested by the police, Lai Yang and some high-ranking members of Long Zitong were having a meeting. In that meeting, some members of Long Zitong suggested that they let Mei Ling stay in the prison and chose Lai Yang to become the next leader of Long Zitong. Lai Yang was surprised when he found out that Mei Ling had invested 1/3 of Long Zitong's assets without discussing about it with him and other high-ranking members of Long Zitong first. Despite that, Lai Yang decided to ask Walter to release Mei Ling from the prison. After Young Jun got arrested by the police, he and other Chinese who also got arrested were being taken to a camp. The police gathered them there because they planned to deport them back to China. Young Jun panicked when he found out about that. He tried to explain to the police officers that he was born and raised in the United States even though he couldn't speak English. The police officers laughed at him and ignored him. Young Jun's life was miserable since he lived in that camp. While Young Jun was enjoying his tasteless food, a man suddenly approached him and asked him to go to a place. Young Jun thought that that man wanted to ask him to spend some time together. But turned out that man took him to that place because he wanted to take revenge on Hop Wai Tong for beating his parents up just because they didn't pay taxes to them. Assam and Hong finally arrived at the camp where Young Jun was forced to stay in. They were still trying to find a way to help their friend Young Jun. They still had no idea about how to get inside that camp because that place was guarded by many police officers. Before Benjamin became the chief of police, Assam and his Tong could bribe the police and ask them to help them easily. But since Benjamin became the chief of police, they couldn't bribe the police anymore because Benjamin was a very strict police officer who refused to accept any bribery. Meanwhile, Young Jun was being beaten black and blue by some men who held grudges against Hop Wai Tong. He was unable to fight them back because he was outnumbered by them. While he was lying weak on the floor, a man suddenly approached him. Turned out that man was Father Jun, his own father. Father Jun was also arrested by the police and brought to that camp. But he revealed to Young Jun that he had prepared some weapons to help him to get out of that place. He asked Young Jun to follow him and leave that place with him. Father Jun told Young Jun that he planned to leave San Francisco and go to New York after Young Jun became the leader of Hop Wai Tong. But unfortunately, while he was heading to New York, the police mistook him as a homeless man and took him to that camp. After Assam failed to bribe the police officers who guarded the camp where Young Jun was staying in, he finally decided to ask his sister Mei Ling to help him to free Young Jun. He suggested Mei Ling to give a great amount of money to her friend who was working in the government institution. But turned out, Mei Ling already knew that the money that Assam gave her was counterfeit money. So she burned down the money and asked Assam to give her the half territory of Hop Wai Tong if she managed to help Young Jun to get out of the camp. She also asked Assam to work together with Long Zi Tong to produce the counterfeit money. She said that she would use his connection in the government institution to help them to distribute the counterfeit money. She promised that she would share the money that they earned from producing and distributing the counterfeit money. After thinking for a while, Assam finally agreed to make a deal with Mei Ling. The next day, while Young Jun and Father Jun were walking toward the ship that would take them and other Chinese to their country of origin, they prepared themselves to attack the police officers who guarded that place. They took out their knives and planned to use those weapons to attack those police officers and run away from that place afterward. But before they had the chance to execute their plan, a man suddenly came to that place and showed a letter to a police officer there. According to that letter, the police officers were obliged to release Young Jun and Father Jun from that place. It was revealed that Mei Ling was the one who sent that man to that place. Young Jun and Father Jun were happy and relieved when they saw that. In the evening, Young Jun went to Ah Toi's brothel to celebrate his release from the camp. He finally learned that Assam was the one who helped him to get out of the camp by working together with Mei Ling. He was angry when he found out that Assam gave the half territory of Hop Wai Tong to Mei Ling in exchange for releasing him from the camp. Assam defended what he was doing by blaming Young Jun for what happened to him. He said that it was because of Young Jun that he got arrested by the police and brought to that camp. He said that if Young Jun didn't provoke Benjamin and other police officers and just ran away from them that day, he wouldn't get arrested by them and brought to that camp. Assam also said that while Young Jun was being held at that camp, he could have just let him get deported back to China, and he could have just taken charge of Hop Wai Tong as their new leader. But instead of doing that, he decided to save Young Jun, even though the sacrifice that Hop Wai Tong made to do that was pretty huge. Meanwhile, Wang Chao was meeting with Happy Jack, the local drug trafficker. It was revealed that Happy Jack was the brother of Abigail, the bartender who once drugged Richard but now had become his girlfriend. Because of his relationship with Abigail, Richard had been often visiting that place lately. Just like Wang Chao, Happy Jack also didn't like Richard's presence in that place because he was a Secret Service agent after all. Wang Chao found out that Happy Jack also didn't like Richard's presence in that place. So he asked Happy Jack to work with him to get rid of Richard. Happy Jack was getting more excited with the idea of killing Richard after he found out that Richard was a fugitive and there was a great amount of money as the prize for anyone who managed to capture him. Happy Jack then agreed to work together with Wang Chao to kill Richard. Happy Jack and Wang Chao then began to execute their plan to get rid of Richard. They lured Richard into a place and trapped him there. When Richard arrived in that place, Happy Jack suddenly showed up in that place and struck him in the head. After Happy Jack knocked Richard unconscious, he aimed his firearm at Wang Chao. He was angry at Wang Chao after he found out that Wang Chao and Hop Wai Tong had been using counterfeit money all this time. He planned to capture Wang Chao too and take him and Richard to the police station. The next morning, Richard finally woke up from his faint. He saw himself being tied up inside a truck. He also saw Wang Chao in that place. Just like him, Wang Chao was also being tied up by a chain. Turned out, they were being taken to a man who was looking for Richard. When they arrived in a place, a man got inside the truck and took Richard with him. That man took Richard to his aunt, a woman whose child was murdered by Richard. It was revealed that in the past, Richard murdered 2 men who raped his fiancée. After he killed those men, he decided to leave his village and go to San Francisco. The mother of the man who was murdered by Richard was still angry about what Richard did to her son. She planned to take revenge on Richard for murdering her son. She ordered her men to tie Richard and Wang Chao up in the wagon. While Richard and Wang Chao were being taken to that woman's place, the wagon that they rode suddenly crashed into something. Wang Chao used that situation to run away from that place. While he was running away, he tried to remove the chain that tied him up by using the nail that he took from the wagon. After a while, Wang Chao finally managed to run away from those people. But when he was about to get into the forest, he suddenly stopped running. He finally decided to return to the place where Richard was getting tortured by those men because he didn't know about the direction in that place. Wang Chao then helped Richard by attacking those men. After a while, he and Richard finally managed to defeat those men. In San Francisco, Young Jun and Ah Sam were having a meeting with Lai Yang and Mei Ling. In that meeting, they discussed about the agreement that they had made. Young Jun then took Mei Ling and Lai Yang to a factory that they would use to keep the machine to produce counterfeit money. Even though Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong had decided to work together, Young Jun still refused to believe in Mei Ling. After Hop Wai Tong and Long Zi Tong agreed to make a deal, Father Jun asked Ah Sam and Young Jun to have a conversation with him. Father Jun asked them to be careful because the business that they were dealing in right now was very dangerous. He told them that he knew a German businessman who lived not far from San Francisco. He said that that German businessman sold silver, and he planned to buy silver from him by using the counterfeit money that Ah Sam and Young Jun produced. Ah Sam, Young Jun, and Hong then rushed to that German businessman's place to buy the silver by using the counterfeit money. When they arrived in that place, they saw some Irish guarding that place. At first, those Irishmen underestimated and mocked them. But after Young Jun showed them the money that they carried, those Irishmen began to change their attitude toward them. Ah Sam told them that they wanted to buy the silver from them. He said that he didn't mind if he had to pay double to buy the silver from them because the German businessmen knew that the money that they bought was counterfeit money after all. After Ah Sam's group and the German businessmen agreed to make a deal, the German businessman took Ah Sam and the others to look around that place. Ah Sam was surprised and angry when he found out about how the Chinese were being treated in that place. Those Chinese were treated as if they were stray dogs. In the evening, Ah Sam and Young Jun even saw a Chinese boy getting tortured by some Irish just because he stole some food. While Ah Sam and Young Jun were trying to attack those Irish, the German businessman suddenly showed up in that place and tried to calm them down. He seemed guilty about what his men had done to that Chinese boy. The next day, Ah Sam and the others told the German businessman that they would return to Chinatown and return to that place in 4 weeks. After that, Ah Sam and his group left that place by using a carriage. But when they were leaving that place, they saw the Chinese boy whom they saw last night lying dead on the ground with blood all over his body. That poor Chinese boy died after the German businessman's men beat him up severely. Ah Sam approached the mother of that Chinese boy. He was angry when the mother of that Chinese boy told him that her son had never stolen anything. Ah Sam tried to return to the German businessman's place, but Young Jun and Father Jun stopped him right away. They warned him to stay away from this problem because it was not their business. But Ah Sam didn't listen to them. He insisted on returning to the German businessman's place to confront that man about what his men did to that poor Chinese boy. Since Young Jun and Father Jun couldn't do anything to stop him, they finally decided to help him to defeat those Irishmen. Even though Ah Sam, Young Jun, and Father Jun were outnumbered by those armed Irishmen, they still managed to defeat them. The mother of the dead Chinese boy even helped them to attack those Irishmen. While Young Jun and Father Jun were busy attacking those Irishmen, Ah Sam sneaked into that place and faced the owner of that place, the German businessman, by himself. As a legendary fighter of San Francisco's Chinatown, it didn't take a long time for Ah Sam to defeat that German businessman and his men. He even managed to defeat them without getting injured at all. Unfortunately, Father Jun got injured when he was attacking the German businessman's men. Young Jun panicked when he found out that his father got injured. He and Ah Sam then decided to return to Chinatown soon to save him. As soon as they arrived in Chinatown, Father Jun's doctor tried his best to help to heal Father Jun's wound. Father Jun was feeling a little better after he received treatment from his doctor. But the next day, Father Jun began to act strangely. He began to have hallucination and even forget about who he was. Young Jun was sad and worried when he saw that. He didn't know about what he needed to do to help his father. One day, young Jun was looking for Father Jun, but he couldn't find him anywhere. He panicked because of that. He then ordered everyone to find his father soon. Turned out, Father Jun went to Long Zitong and began to embarrass himself by challenging everyone there. His mental condition was not good. Lai Yong saw him and recognized him as Father Jun, the previous leader of Hop Wai Tong and the father of Young Jun. He helped Father Jun to take him home. Young Jun was surprised and touched when he saw that. He thanked Lai Yong for taking his father home. For the first time in his life, his hatred toward Long Zitong was finally gone, even though it was only for that very moment. Mei Ling went to the copy and print shop that was owned by Yan Mei's father. She went to that place to invite her brother Assam to her wedding. After everything that she had been through all this time, she finally decided to settle down and marry her partner Lai Yong. After Mei Ling left that place, Young Jun and his men arrived in that place. Young Jun went to that place to ask Yan Mei to teach his men about how to produce counterfeit money. Yan Mei was the only person who knew about how to use the machine and produce counterfeit money. So he worried that they couldn't keep producing counterfeit money anymore if Yan Mei was suddenly gone. For that reason, he asked Yan Mei to teach his men about how to use the machine and produce counterfeit money. After a while, Richard and Happy Jack returned to the pub where Abigail was working at. Happy Jack was surprised when he saw them there. Abigail was disappointed and angry when she found out that her own brother was the one who tried to kill her boyfriend Richard. She then decided to kill him by shooting him in the head. Wang Chao also helped him to shoot Happy Jack. Happy Jack died instantly because of that. The next morning, Richard told his partner Edmund that he wanted to quit his job as a Secret Service agent. He explained that he didn't have any reasons to stay in the police anymore. But Edmund asked him not to quit at least until they found the people who were responsible for producing the counterfeit money. At the pub, Dylan was confused when he saw people having an argument there. Those people began to argue with each other after a group of Chinese attacked an Irish in Chinatown. Those people planned to attack Chinatown to take revenge on the Chinese for what they did to their friend. Dylan was angry when he heard that. He warned them not to do that because he had promised Assam that he and the Irish wouldn't mess with the Chinese anymore. He also warned them that what they did would only create a racial war and they would die in it. He said that he would go to Chinatown by himself to take care of this problem. When Dylan arrived in Chinatown, he told Assam about the group of Chinese who attacked an Irish. He asked Assam to keep an eye on his people so that the racial war between the Chinese and the Irish wouldn't happen anymore. In the evening, Assam was looking for some information about the group of Chinese who attacked an Irish that Dylan mentioned earlier. He finally found out that Yan Mei's brother, Zemo, was the one who initiated the attack. He approached Zemo and beat him up right away. He berated him for attacking the Irish. He warned him not to do that or even think about it anymore. He made it clear that he would pay for what he did if he did such thing again. The next day, the wedding of Mei Ling and Lai Yong was finally being held. Even though Young Jun and Assam were the members of Hop Wai Tong, the rival of Long Zitong, they still attended Mei Ling and Lai Yong's wedding. While everyone was celebrating Mei Ling and Lai Yong's wedding, Kong approached Lai Yong and asked him to talk to him in private. Kong and other high-ranking members of Hop Wai Tong congratulated Lai Yong for his wedding, but they also criticized Lai Yong for how he held his wedding. They thought that it was not in accordance with the values of Long Zitong. They also said something bad about Mei Ling, but Lai Yong ignored them. No matter what they said about Mei Ling, he would still love Mei Ling and would never change his opinion of her. Mei Ling somehow knew that the high-ranking members of Long Zitong disliked her and conspired against her. So she ordered the most loyal Long Zitong's fighters to kill Kong and the high-ranking members of Long Zitong. She worried that they would do something bad to her, such as killing her and taking charge of Long Zitong. So she decided to get rid of them first before they had the chance to do something bad to her. Unfortunately, Kong managed to survive the attempted murder. He was furious at Mei Ling for ordering a man to assassinate him. Mei Ling defended what she did by saying that she was doing that to protect herself from Kong and the high-ranking members of Long Zitong. She said that she knew that they had instigated Lai Yong to hate her and get rid of her. Even though Mei Ling admitted that she tried to kill Kong, Lai Yong still defended her. Lai Yong even fought Kong and stopped him from attacking his wife. After a while, he finally managed to defeat Kong. He was frustrated and disappointed when he realized that he had killed his best friend. Bill and Dylan went to the police station and asked the police officers there to free the Irish who made a mistake by stealing something in Chinatown. The police officers said that they couldn't help them to do that because they were afraid of their superior, Benjamin. But Bill and Dylan insisted on freeing their friend by themselves. But while they were leaving that place, Benjamin and other police officers suddenly showed up in that place and stopped them. Benjamin told Bill that he had told him before that he didn't like him that much. So, he challenged Bill to have a fight to settle the difference between them. At first, Bill refused to do that. He knew that having a problem with a police officer was the last thing that he wanted to do in this world. But since Benjamin didn't appreciate his politeness and respect for him, and kept mocking him instead, Bill finally accepted his challenge to have a fight. In a cell, Bill and Benjamin began to have a fight. At first, Bill was struggling to defeat Benjamin because Benjamin was stronger and younger than him. But after a while, he finally managed to fight Benjamin back and beat him up severely. Benjamin was shocked when Bill began to beat him up. He didn't expect that a person he had been underestimating all this time could fight him back and even defeat him. He even suffered from serious injuries after being beaten up by Bill that he needed to be sent to the hospital. The next morning, Walter visited Bill at his house. Bill thought that Walter came to that place to arrest him for attacking Benjamin, but turned out Walter came to that place to ask Bill to become the next chief of police. He argued that Benjamin had failed to become the role model of other police officers and to protect people in that town. Bill was surprised when he heard that, but he immediately accepted his offer. In the evening, Douglas returned home. It was revealed that Ah Toy had sent her subordinate to sneak into Douglas's house and disguise herself as a servant there. She ordered her subordinate to kill Douglas to take revenge on him for burning down Nellie's vineyard. After Ah Toy's subordinate thought that the situation was already safe, she sneaked into Douglas's room and began to attack Douglas. But unfortunately, Douglas managed to attack her back and even wounded her severely. Ah Toy's subordinate was surprised when she saw that. She didn't expect that Douglas was great at fighting. After a while, Douglas finally managed to defeat her. Ah Toy was surprised when she found out that the subordinate whom she sent to kill Douglas was sent back to her with wounds all over her body. Father Jun's health condition had been worsening lately. Father Jun's doctor even admitted that he couldn't do much to help Father Jun. Father Jun was feeling hopeless and pessimistic about his health condition. He doubted that he could ever recover from his illness. He was embarrassed of his condition. He asked young Jun to kill him because he wanted to die as a cruel and well-respected leader of Hop Wai Tong and not as an old, weak, and confused man who died slowly because of his illness. Even though it was hard for young Jun to do that, he finally granted his father's wish to kill him for his dignity. The next day, all members of Hop Wai Tong paid their last respects to Father Jun by attending his funeral. After the funeral was over, Ah Sam went outside to smoke. Suddenly, Zimo approached him and told him that Yan Mei was arrested by the police after Richard and Edmund found the counterfeit money at their house. Ah Sam was surprised when he heard that. He rushed to the police station to talk to Richard. He asked Richard to free Yan Mei and promised that he would give the machine that they used to produce the counterfeit money in exchange for that. After thinking for a while, Richard finally agreed to make a deal with Ah Sam. After that, Richard finally allowed Ah Sam to visit Yan Mei in her cell. Ah Sam told Yan Mei that he would release her from that place. He also promised that he would take her far away from that town and start a new life together with her somewhere. Ah Sam then went to see Wang Chao and gave all his money to him. He was afraid that something bad would happen to him. So he asked Wang Chao to give the money to Yan Mei if he was unable to meet her again. After Ah Sam left that place, some men suddenly came to that place and threatened Wang Chao. Turned out, those men were Happy Jack's subordinates. They came to that place to take revenge on Wang Chao for murdering their boss, Happy Jack. Wang Chao tried to negotiate with them. He promised them that he would tell them about where they kept the machine that they used to produce the counterfeit money. He said that the police would come to that location to seize the machine the next morning, so they could steal the machine before the police arrived in that place. Meanwhile, Dylan was visiting Douglas, who supervised the workers who were working for the railroad project. Dylan asked Douglas about his promise to use Irish workers for building the railroad. He thought that Douglas didn't keep his promise because he was using Chinese workers instead of Irish workers. Douglas responded to him by asking Dylan to become a successful businessman like him first. He said that Dylan could do anything that he pleased, including hiring Irish workers to work for the railroad project, if he became a successful businessman like him. Dylan was angry when he heard that. He felt stupid because he had trusted a businessman and a politician like Douglas. He made it clear that Douglas would pay for what he did to him. In the evening, the angry Dylan decided to blow up the bridge that was being built by Douglas. With that being done, Dylan had declared a war against Douglas. After he blew up the bridge, he went to Douglas's house to tell Douglas about the explosion. Douglas was furious when he heard that. He tried to threaten Dylan, but Dylan was not afraid of him. Unlike other politicians who fought for the rights of others for their own personal purposes, Dylan had been fighting for the rights of the Irish workers because he really cared about them. Douglas refused to just stay quiet about it. Later, he sent his men to harm Dylan to take revenge on him for what he did to him and his railroad project. Even though Dylan was outnumbered by Douglas's men, he managed to fight them back and defeat all of them. Dylan was getting more angry at Douglas for sending those men to kill him. He came to Douglas's house to kill Douglas, but Bill stopped him from doing that by reminding him that it was not a good idea to kill Douglas. He argued that Douglas was a well-known baron and businessman who knew many important people in that town. Douglas was also very powerful and cunning that he could use the mayor of San Francisco like Walter. So, killing Douglas would only worsen the situation. Turned out, Ottoy and Nellie were also planning to kill Douglas. They wanted to take revenge on him for burning down Nellie's vineyard and killing Nellie's girls. They went to Douglas's house to kill Douglas. They began to attack Douglas, but Douglas, who had anticipated their arrival, attacked them back. But after a while, Ottoy and Nellie finally managed to kill him. While Douglas was dying, Bill and Dylan finally arrived in that place. They were shocked when they saw what happened there. Fortunately, Ottoy and Nellie managed to run away from that place. Bill tried to chase them, but he failed to do that. Now, he and Dylan needed to clean up the mess that they didn't make. Bill was afraid that people would think that Dylan was the one who killed Douglas, since he was the last person who quarreled with Douglas. He was frustrated when he thought about it, but Douglas didn't seem to worry about it. Even though Bill had become the chief of police, Dylan realized that they could still bribe the judge at the court, and Bill's status as a chief of police wouldn't change any decision that the judge made. Bill and Dylan then decided to get rid of Douglas's corpse by burning it down. The next day, Bill, Richard, Edmund, and other police officers were preparing themselves to raid the place that was used to produce the counterfeit money. They blocked all roads and accesses in that town so that nobody would run away from that place. Assam was the one who told the police about all those roads and accesses. While Bill and other police officers were busy blocking those roads and accesses, Assam went to Yan Mi's copy and print shop. Assam told Hong and the members of Hop Wai Tong, who guarded that place, that the police would arrive soon to raid that place. Because of that, he asked them to help him to remove the photocopier from that place before the police arrived there. But suddenly, Assam and Hong heard the commotion outside the room. Turned out, Happy Jack's subordinates were having an argument with the police. Assam and Hong could have just removed the photocopier easily if Happy Jack's subordinates didn't come to that place, and worsened the situation by challenging the police. While Assam was giving the plate maker to the police, a Happy Jack subordinate suddenly acted strangely. Because of that, Edmund and other police officers began to shoot him and other Happy Jack subordinates. The gun battle between the police officers and Happy Jack subordinates then happened. A Happy Jack subordinate saw the plate maker on the floor. He used that moment to steal that plate maker. Assam saw him and chased him right away. After a while, he finally managed to defeat that man and get the plate maker back. He gave the plate maker to Richard and asked Richard to keep his promise to free Yan Mei. While Ah Sam was leaving that place, a police officer suddenly showed up in that place and attacked him. Fortunately, Hong immediately helped Ah Sam by attacking that police officer back. When Ah Sam woke up from his faint, he saw the members of Hop Wei Tong preparing themselves for a war against Long Zi Tong. Ah Sam was surprised and confused when he knew that. Young Jun told him that it was the best time for them to attack Long Zi Tong. He explained that Long Zi Tong was very weak right now after Mei Ling executed all high-ranking members of Long Zi Tong. Because of that tragedy, Long Zi Tong suffered from internal conflict. Young Jun also heard that Lai Yong, the greatest fighter of Long Zi Tong, had left Long Zi Tong. Young Jun urged Ah Sam to make up his mind. He told him to think clearly or even pick a side between Hop Wei Tong or Long Zi Tong. He said that he wouldn't force Ah Sam to join the war, but he needed to make sure that Ah Sam wouldn't ruin his plan to attack Long Zi Tong. Ah Sam had no idea about what he needed to do. On one side, he had been becoming a part of Hop Wei Tong all this time. But on another side, Mei Ling, the leader of Long Zi Tong, was his own sister. Even though Mei Ling once betrayed him by ordering Lai Yong to kill him in a battle, Ah Sam finally decided to be on Mei Ling's side. As the consequence, he needed to fight all members of Hop Wei Tong who stood in his way. After Ah Sam defeated all members of Hop Wei Tong, he finally needed to face Young Jun and Hong. At first, it was easy for Ah Sam to fight Young Jun and Hong at the same time. But as time went by, he began to struggle as Young Jun hurt him with his knife. After a while, he finally managed to defeat Young Jun and Hong. Yan Mei had been released from the prison. At the train station, she was anxiously waiting for Ah Sam to pick him up. While she was waiting for Ah Sam, Wang Chao suddenly showed up in that place and approached her. He gave some money to her. He told her that Ah Sam was not doing good right now. Because of that, he suggested Yan Mei to leave that place soon. Yan Mei worried when she heard that, but she finally listened to him and got on train without Ah Sam. While Wang Chao was watching Yan Mei leaving that place, a man suddenly approached him and attacked him with a knife. Apparently, that man was Zhang, the leader of Feng Hai Tong, who had been betrayed by Wang Chao. Zhang was still alive after he managed to run away from the prison. Mei Ling panicked when she found out that the members of Hop Wei Tong had arrived in her place to kill her. She grabbed her gun and prepared herself for the worst because she only had herself all this time. Fortunately, she still had the knife and the gun that Wang Chao gave to her. With that knife and gun, she managed to defeat some members of Hop Wei Tong who tried to attack her. Not long after that, Ah Sam finally arrived in that place. He was relieved that his sister Mei Ling was still alive. After years, Mei Ling and Ah Sam could finally reunite and see each other again. Some members of Long Zi Tong came to see Lai Yong and took off their Long Zi Tong's uniforms. Just like Lai Yong, they finally decided to leave Long Zi Tong after everything that happened within their organization. They thought that there was no use to stay in Long Zi Tong because of the internal conflict that happened within the organization and because of Mei Ling, whom they thought was too self-centered. Lai Yong was surprised and glad when he saw that. It appeared that a new journey for him would begin soon.